17 donuts, yeah. Yeah, 17 donuts, that's the weight of your lies. Sugarcoat a boundary, but the truth don't rise. You got told leave, still you planted your feet. Now I'm rapping full speed just to make it complete. 17 spins of the same tire take. Every note you hear, you try to bend till it break. You don't miss cues, you ignore them on sight. Then you act brand new when they call it outright. I'm pissed now, no polish, straight facts in a chain. Cause you turning basic respect into a game. Like persistence of virtue when they crossing the line. Now that's pressure disguised, that ain't grind, that's a sign. 17 times you done ran that route. Same room, same tension every time you about. Women got a brace when you step in the zone. That alone tell the truth, you just won't own. You take one small favor, turn it into a key. Like it unlock every door indefinitely. Like I did this once, now you part of the space. That's entitlement talk, you don't earn that place. And it's wild, I gotta rhyme this out loud. Like the lesson ain't simple, gotta say it in the crowd. No, ain't a puzzle, ain't a code to decode. It's a full stop sign, not a fork in the road. 17 donuts, empty calories talk. Whole lot of fluff when you open your jaw, but the core still hollow, no substance inside. Just excuses stack high with the victim disguise. You get shot and you shrink. Now they confused like the rules just appear when they aim them at you. But they been there the whole time, you just chose not to see. Cause respecting the line mean relinquishing greed. And yeah, I'm mad cause this shouldn't be said. Shouldn't take 64 bars just to get in your head. But here we are breaking down basic ground. Why you still trying to argue, why you stick around? 17 spins, now direct your one thing. Every angle you take still loop back again to the same core fact that you duck in the vein. You don't take no serious when it's plainly conveyed. That ain't confusion, that's a choice you repeat. That's a pattern you carry every wound that you meet. Then you flip to the victim when it don't go your way. Like accountability, foreign language to say. I don't scream, I don't rant, I just lay it in place. Every bar like a mirror, you refuse to face. Every line like a stamp that you can't erase. Every word put a boundary back in its place. 17 donuts. Circle back to the start, you go round and round, but don't move smart. Same spin, same place, same empty center. Same excuse every time you enter. You don't get space just cause you insist. You don't get grace cause you twist the script. You don't get power from a past assist. You don't get rights cause you coexist. And the worst part, this ain't even deep. It's the kind of lesson most learn in a week. But I'm 64 bars and still breaking it down. Cause you keep acting lost when they come back around. So yeah, 17 donuts, that's your whole display.
Yeah, you guys will forgive me if I indulge myself listening to my own AI music. Hello, welcome in. I recognize that this is my first official outing with the official moniker and the logos and everything. Like I'm going hard for the very first time today. Typically, I'm your trusty sidekick. You may or may not know me from hanging out with Father Trinity and Dr. Barry. I'm usually the guy they call when they want to jump on somebody. But today I've ventured out on my own because I feel very passionately about this topic, and I am always prepared to have my mind changed. So I'm offering this platform. See, most platforms will tell you, "Hey, hit the likes, do the thing. I got a goal." I'm not interested in that. I want to reach people individually. So if you are an op, if you disagree with my prompt at all, I invite you to come on up and let's have that conversation. I think you will find me knowledgeable in the realm of AI. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I am a professional traditional artist. I'm an author professionally of 25 years, been writing for 40 years. I have 3 years of prompt engineering under my belt, and I am a strong proponent of AI. I believe that large language models are the future of business and entertainment, full stop. I believe not only that AI art is art and AI artists are artists, is that I can prove it objectively by any single measure of the dictionary that you would like to use. I can back it up logically. I can back it up factually. I can back it up consistently and objectively. And I am also open to being told that I'm wrong. Thank you, Anthony, for spam liking. Go ahead. You just beat the fuck out of it. Just beat on it. Just beat on it. I'm more than happy to have my mind changed, to have my views challenged, but I think my shit is lock solid. I think I've got the know-how, I've got the knowledge, I've got the understanding, I've got I'm ready to have these conversations with anybody who feels as though they can disagree with the prompt. Now, I'm not just looking for ops. Like I have a committed community set around this. There are so many people in this space who agree with this prompt. So I want like friendlies to come on up. But what I found is in all the lives that I do, and this is no slight against any of them because they crawled so I could walk. They paved the way for me. A lot of them they get their friends together and they laugh and they joke, and then at some point, whether they meant to or not, whether it was accidental or intentional, whether it was simply just it was people got comfortable with one another and got to talking and they lose sight of the plot, and suddenly it's just a bunch of friends sitting around talking. That's fine. That's fine, but what I'm really looking for is to challenge your views and have my views challenged. That's the single most important thing to me. Now, I wrestled with this. I don't want to say I struggled. I didn't struggle, but I wrestled with how I wanted to do this, how this would be done, how I would work it out. I've got my prompt here. I think my little logo is fire. I've got my notes here. I've got my list of facts. I've got my laptop wide open, and I've got all of my notes. I have what I believe are the most concise notes. I'll walk you through it because like we're really just getting started, and I recognize that there aren't going to be a lot of people here just yet. What I have done this morning, in addition to jumping on my dog for barking too much, is I went to the Oxford Dictionary, Merriam-Webster's, Cambridge, Collins, American Heritage, and I grabbed every definition that they had of art and artist, ran a comparison for it. So I have all of their definitions side by side. But from them, I was able to derive what I think is a more concise definition based on all of them. And I haven't used this yet. Hey, Miss Marvel, I haven't used it yet. I haven't broke it out on anybody, so you'll be my first. I feel comfortable in presenting it here for the first time ever because it's grounded in logic, it's grounded in facts. I also took it a step further for people who like to argue like facts and shit. I also went to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and I broke down what the laws of logic are because I have a feeling that I'm going to have a conversation about what the laws of logic is and what facts are. So I'm ready for that. I'm 100% across the board ready for it. I have done, I don't want to say it's extensive research, but I'm prepped. I'm ready. Like any other time, and I feel badly for this, and it's no slight against anybody else. Thank you for the hat, agent. It's no slight against anybody else who does things like again, Dr. Barry crawled so that I could walk. Chicago John, Father Trinity, Empress, like all of these guys crawled so that I could walk and do this thing. I'm not saying that my format is better. I'm just saying that for all the times that I've been in these formats, sometimes I felt as though, wow, maybe some more one-on-one interactions would be better. Maybe if it was just one or two friendlies against an op, they wouldn't feel a certain way. So I did the things that I had to do. I've organized my notes in such a way. I am prepared. I am prepared to march up this hill and die on it. AI art is art. AI artists are artists. Now I know I'm a part of several communities. One of them is very pro AI, but also I'm part of the Power Rangers community on TikTok, and they are very anti AI for their own reasons. So if you're from that side of the fence, I invite you up. If you're friendly, I invite you up. I'm happy to have these conversations because it's very important that I'm not living in an echo chamber, that I'm not surrounding myself with a group of friends and we're all just laughing and joking, laughing at the silly people who don't use AI. If you have a good point, I'm very happy to have your point discussed. Like, that's more than fine. More than fine. Agent, my guy, I see you in the chat. I see you coming up. I recognize and for everybody who's here, everybody who's Agent has been like my brother day one. He's looked out for me like for years now. But he's on the Power Ranger side and he's been kind of swaying on, oh, I want to use AI. Is AI the devil? We've been kind of on the fence. But I stand 10 toes down, and this is what we should be doing. I also see that Diana joined. That would be such a joy, Diana, because you and I did not have a chance to talk yesterday in Dr. Barry's live. I would love to have you up here. However, however, I do see my boy Agent is in here, and look, we're kind of making up the rules as we go along. We're kind of making up the rules as we go along. So let's initiate what we're doing. Let's figure out how this is going to work, and let's see. This is going to shape how we do things going forward.
Okay, there it is. Look, it's not that I don't like AI. You know me, I will use AI.
You got a lot of background noise, my friend.
How about now?
Okay, that's fantastic. Before you start off on your rant, here's the thing. We got to do the thing. Hey, just for TikTok I'm not going to do that. I know you're over 18. Let's do this. I'm going to ask you to respond to the prompt. Is AI art and are AI artists? I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock. I just want to hear you and your opinions on this so I know where we stand and we can go forward.
I wouldn't call AI art. I would call it art assistance. Just for now, until it becomes more refined. I would call people using AI on their artwork or on whatever they're using it for more like an assistant. Like the way I use ChatGPT, fandom, how you gave me your login so I could use it to assist me in my daily life. Eventually, it will come down to the point where current artists will be out of work or they don't use AI, which, like everything else since the 80s, everything new takes out the old. And then eventually it will happen where AI art will become the only form of artwork out there. And that's the future of it, in which I can understand that completely. And I see that. That's why I'm okay using it. But I also understand the fact why some people don't like AI artwork. I understand both sides of it. I'm not against AI, but I use AI on my daily basis. You know this, Phantom. So I'm not against it, and I'm not against using it. But I understand why some people are against using it.
Okay, what I hear from you is that you agree. So you agree that it's art. Do you agree that AI artists are artists?
I agree that it's a learning curve. I don't know if I can say 100% right now that AI artists are artists, but I can see where some people may think it is, some people may think it's not. For me, I don't know. It's just since it's so new.
Okay, buddy. Okay. If this is what we're doing, see, this is what I feared with you because you're saying things and like combative mode kicked in, and I'm like, wait. So now I have to ask you,
Ask me.
what's your definition of an artist then? And now keep in mind, I know you're not familiar with me in these spaces. We don't really do it here. Typically, I try to lean on the dictionary definition so that I'm just not making something up.
And there's nothing wrong. And Phantom, there's nothing wrong with that. Look, yes, the definition of artist, somebody who creates something by coloring or painting, whatever, and using AI is doing the same thing, yes. And I agree. I can understand where, from your side of it, it's coming from. I get that. But since AI is so new, and there's no real defining way to describe what AI work is of yet, because since there's so many people who are against using it, I say wait to define yourself until it becomes more readily used in everyday life. If you want to call yourself an artist, I say go right ahead. Some people may not agree with you. Some people may fight you for it.
See, my guy, that's what's in contention here. That's the problem that I'm having. This isn't up for interpretation. This isn't my opinion versus your opinion. My statement is objectively, factually, AI artists art and AI artists are artists by every measure of the dictionary definition, by every measure of the way these words are used colloquially. So no, and not that you did it on purpose, because I see it a lot. But what happened was, what you wanted to do was say, well, I see some people have opinions and some people have other opinions. We should just let them have opinions. No. What I'm saying is that AI artist art is a fact. I can prove it with the facts logically. So I'm not arguing an opinion. I'm saying it is what it is. And the only differential that people can give me is it's new and I don't like it. I have feelings about it. But objectively, both of these things fall within the criteria of being art and artists.
You know what? Mystics version of what he said. I like that. Oh, and
Um,
he wrote in the comments.
I'm,
And
I'm, I'm not really in the chat. Walk me through that.
he says as long as they put soul and sweat like human artists, which basically exactly if they're using AI not to do the bare minimum and actually put and blood, sweat, and soul and actually use AI fully, then okay, then yes. If they're using AI to do it from scratch and not taking somebody's work and be like changing it up just a little bit, fine. That I can agree with.
I hear you. That's great. I disagree. Here's why. For you to say, oh, not a lot of effort was put into this piece, but more effort was put into this piece. In no world do we describe art by the level of effort that goes into it. Because for that to hold, my next question would be, well, how much effort exactly? How much blood and soul exactly is it? I would need a quantifiable number. And then I would point to traditional artists like the banana on the wall, or the renditions of the Campbell soup cans, or the cat who knocked over a thing of paint and then it
Well,
spilled on
okay,
the
well
canvas.
then let me say
Like,
this:
there was no
if you
effort put into
use
that.
AI to create something 100% new, where it isn't portion of it isn't taken from somebody else's other artwork,
Sorry, and I
or
got to stop you there because there's no such thing as original work. All art is derivative of something else. Everything, everything. I challenge you to name one original art piece in any genre, anywhere, that does not use the same elements that somebody used somewhere else.
you know,
There is no original artwork. Have you ever heard the expression, there are no more original ideas in Hollywood, or there's nothing new under the sun? All the ideas have been done. That's why you see so many remixes. That's why you see so many reboots. That's why you see so many reimaginings. There is no new original ideas out there. Anything you do has been done before, slightly differently.
okay, so then let's rephrase it. And if you make an artwork of something, but from scratch, where you don't use somebody else's baseline, and say, well, if you create a brand new picture or from scratch, where you don't use an outline of somebody else's picture, that's what I mean.
But you're disqualifying AI art from that. But that's what every artist does.
Because look, Phantom, you know how I use AI to put my face on the Rangers' bodies?
Yes.
I wouldn't call myself an AI artist.
You could and you should. You know why? Because you took an idea that already existed, you put your own spin on it, you used your creative imaginations to present it to the world as an emotional expression, and then we saw it. It qualifies as art.
Phantom,
Now,
Diana's trying to come up. Do you want to bring her up?
I would absolutely, Diana, I would love to have you up here. Like, I'll give you the prerequisite, but come on up,
Do you
Diana.
want me to add her?
I got her. I got
Okay.
it.
Yep, just trying to help as a moderator.
Sorry, I didn't
Hi,
mean to
Miss
interrupt
Diana.
you. Hi, I did not
No,
mean to interrupt. I did. That was not my goal.
it's okay.
No, you are fine, Queen. Agent, I'm gonna ask you to mute up, sit this one out. Me and Diane got history. We didn't go at it yesterday. I wanted to have this
I,
talk with you
I'm I'm
yesterday.
I'm here to listen. That's why I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help moderate, and I'm here to show support for you, fan. That's all I'm trying to do.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being my very first guest. You busted my cherry. Oh no.
Oh God,
Anytime, baby brother.
Jesus.
So hi, Miss Diane. Let's
Hi.
do this.
First of all,
Yesterday,
hello. We haven't talked. What is your name? I'm sorry, or maybe do you want to say just Phantom? Is that your preferred?
yeah, Phantom. Look, my government slave name is Patrick. People call me Phantom. That's kind of my thing here.
Whatever you prefer. Phantom it is.
Now, you and I, we had a weird kind of rocky start yesterday, and then it kind of happened, and it didn't happen. I had all these dreams for us, Diane. We were married with kids. We
Uh,
had 7 grandbabies, and then lo and behold, it just didn't seem to work out.
okay,
So
hold your
let's
horses. How about that?
let's put yesterday behind us completely. Let's
Oh
pretend that
no.
I'm
Okay.
meeting you today for the very
Yes.
first time,
Yes.
and
All
let's
right.
have this conversation. Hey, I'm not going to ask you your age. I'm sure you're over 18. You strike me as the type.
I
I'm going
am.
to give you 2 minutes on the clock. I just want you to respond to the prompt for me. Is AI art and AI artists are artists? At the conclusion of your 2 minutes, you and I can discuss.
Okay. Um, in the broadest definition of art, and in I'm sorry, yes, in the broadest definition of art and the broadest possible definition of AI, yes, AI art can be art. So AI artists can be artists. I say can be because I think, and this is where I perhaps was not great about this. No, we'll put yesterday behind us. I say can be because one of the challenges with talking about AI as a concept is that AI means so many things. And so, what I would posit is that where I would start to add constraints around the statement is AI art. Is if what we're asking is generative large language model based AI capable of creating art? Sure. But I want to be clear that I think you said something earlier about the amount of effort that goes into art, right? And we often, that's not really what we associate with what makes something art. It is, though I think one of the things that we associate with art, although not always, to be fair. And so, which gets at the question of like, what is art? Nobody can really define art. But in the broadest definition, which you say for the purpose of having a useful conversation, if you think about it as just an original thing that captures a unique idea to the extent that that is possible in the world that we inhabit, sure, yeah, AI art can be art. I don't say all AI art is art, right? It can be, but it depends on the art. What I'm particularly interested in, if you'll humor me, and then I'll just you can decide if you will, is the question that came up yesterday about AI art in museums. Because one of the things I'm really interested in and spend a lot of time on personally and professionally is understanding how people interact with different types of AI and what those types do, what they do to the environment, what they don't do to the environment, and correcting some misinformation around that. So I think that's my 2 minutes. I'll stop.
Thank you. Um, about a minute in, I disagreed with you so hard, but let's go through it.
Wait, tell me,
Um,
what did you disagree? Sorry, go
no,
ahead. What
no,
did you?
I'm the first thing that I heard you say, you said okay on a broad sense that it is sure on a broad sense, but I think the word broad is really doing some struggling here. It's really working hard. Like AI art meets the criteria for every dictionary definition to qualify as art. So I disagree with in a broad sense. I would say no in the logical, objective, factual sense. AI art fits this criteria. Next, what I heard you say was that generative AI can make art. My answer to that is no, it cannot. Generative AI does nothing. That would be like you saying the paintbrush can make art. The paintbrush doesn't make art. It takes the person plus the tool to make the art. So you need both of those things in order for it to make art. No generative AI, unprompted, untethered, with no instruction, will ever produce anything. So I disagree with that thoroughly. Now the third one, you and I, we can hash this out. We can go back and forth. And you strike me as super intelligent. I really feel like we'll hammer this down together. That there's no definition of art. I disagree with that. I think you disagree with it too. Because if there was no definition of art, we couldn't have this conversation on what AI art is or not. Plus, what I've done is I've gone to every dictionary, Oxford, Merriam-Webster's, Cambridge, College, American Heritage, Britannica. I've gotten all of these definitions. I've looked them all up at a side-by-side comparison to see what they all had in common and what they all differed from. And what I have from all of these definitions, and I'm happy to provide you links if you want to take a look at those, is what I think is the most concise definition of art that you could come up with. I'm going to read it to
Wait,
you now, and for the sake of our conversation, I just want to see if you agree with it or not. Because if you don't, we can tweak it a little bit. Because if we don't agree on that definition, we're talking past each other. Is that fair?
it is, it can be for the sake of this conversation. What I might offer though is I'm actually okay with us the disagreeing on what art is. I think that's okay. I think it would be, I'm happy to do it. And I think to base this conversation on an assumption that everybody has the same idea of what art is a
No, no,
challenging
no,
place to, oh,
and that, no,
same
there's our
definition.
difference.
Sorry, same definition. Allow me to be clear. To say that we all have the same definition of what I'm more than happy to establish a shared base for the purpose of this conversation. But I want to be clear that I am likely to concede with whatever definition of art you want to use and operate in this conversation as though that is the only definition. I'm more than
And you see,
happy.
when it comes to Dr. Barry's lies and Father Trinity, they're happy to make that concession. I am not. What I am proposing is that for anything to be considered art, not just generative, not just music, not just poetry, anything, for it to be considered art, there are things that it must objectively have.
Sure.
If
Okay, go
if
ahead.
if any of these things are objectively missing from what it is, logically it cannot be art. So my answer is my contention is much stronger than everyone else's.
I
I'm
see.
saying there's a logical, factual, objective definition that even if you say, "Oh, I don't adhere to the wording," you cannot deny that these aspects of the art have to be present in order for it to qualify.
I'd love, if you don't mind, I'm happy to look it up, but if you don't mind sharing the definition, I'm more than, let me
Absolutely.
meet you where you are. Yes. So tell me the definition. I'm sure I probably will agree, but let's go for it.
Okay. The concise definition objectively for art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptual form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing aesthetic, emotional,
I'm
intellectual,
so
or
sorry.
symbolic
Can you
meaning.
start over and go slower? I want to hear every word. And I just said that one more time for me, if you don't mind.
No, no problem, no problem. Art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptible form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing aesthetics, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Okay. And so,
Now,
yes, now, if that, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay. So, yes, if that is, now, yes, if that is what we're talking about, yeah, sure, AI can create art.
Fantastic.
I don't
So,
have a contention. I have no, I mean, if that's what we're saying, then I have no beef with the prompt. Unfortunately for you, I'm sorry. I don't know if this is a helpful
no,
conversation.
no, no, that's fine. Like while I want ops, I actually this is the first time that I've even whipped this out. Like I we usually we read the Oxford Dictionary and people go, well I don't well what about the Merriam-Webster? It says this thing. So what I did was that I took them all and I combined them to see what the likenesses and what the differences were to come up with one. So this is the first time I'm presenting this.
Well,
So I'm looking to sharpen my steel against somebody else's steel.
so if you're open to that, let me, I'm going to pressure test this. If I go too hard, please stop me and I will.
Oh,
Um,
go for it.
so I, it is, see, as you read that definition, my take is it is such an expansive definition that there is no room for argument. And I don't disagree with that as a definition of art. The challenge here, or let me ask you this, would you concede, separate from this conversation, that there are good, informed, well-meaning disagreements about whether something is art in the wild, in the general world?
No, I disagree
Really?
because anything that has the criteria of art. Now, I don't like the banana on the wall. I don't like the Mona Lisa. I don't like Taylor Swift. I think she sucks. I can have opinions about the art, but
I
is
see.
it art is not in contention.
I
It
see. I see.
the thing is a creative intention. It has all the qualifications of it. You can like it or dislike it, but your like or dislike does not preclude it from being what it is.
Yeah, so I take your point, right? If it is something that is created, like I'm broadly oversimplifying because it was a fairly lengthy definition, but cut me some slack on that if you would. But like broadly, like yeah, it's something that is created with intention by a creator of some, or whether it's a person or a animal, whatever. Never mind. Yeah, something that was created with intention to communicate something, and that makes it art. And if that's the argument, sure, yeah, if that's the definition we're operating from, I struggle with the idea though that is in fact the definition. I agree with you that it is absolutely suitable as a textbook definition of what art is. I think the challenge I run into in conversations like this is that to define most of the artists I engage with would say that as artists, nobody gets to tell you what is or is not art. And I think it's hard when we're having philosophical conversations like this and trying to narrow down something, a really specific dictionary definition, which while valid and accurate and could very easily fit into the mathematical proof version of what creates an art or what makes an artist. It's challenging for me to kind of accept it as the premise of an argument simply because part of what I would argue makes art is about the experience of that art and it's subjective. But I mean, I take your point that there are lots of people who have feelings about art, and perhaps the fact that you have feelings about it makes it art. But even if would you concede that point?
No, absolutely not. You can have feelings about the art. Yes, again, my personal example is the banana on the wall. I think it's the laziest piece of art I've ever seen. But it's in museums. It's sold for millions of dollars. The guy's world renowned. We're talking about it right now.
No, I'm
The
agreeing
dude,
with. I think we're
the
agreeing.
dude,
No.
the dude is famous for that, like 100%. Like you people can have whatever, like you agreed with the definition. You said, hey, for the purpose of our conversation, I agree with this definition, but you'd be hard pressed to say that this is the objective one. For that to hold, you would have to remove
Sorry.
one of the components from
To be
my
clear,
definition.
that's not, if that's what I said, that's certainly not what I meant. What I said that I am fine with the definition, but the idea that you could get a universal definition, a universally accepted definition across all forms of art is just a challenging premise because of
See,
what art
and
is.
I disagree. I
Oh, okay.
disagree because what I'm saying is that art has to have these things. Like we'll walk through it together,
But I'm
and
not
then you can
but I'm
say,
not saying that the art doesn't have any of those things. I agree with you.
no, but you're saying you agree with me, but you don't think that you could get people to accept the objective definition. For that to hold, we would have to go through these. You would have to find one of the things that I say it needs and say no, it doesn't need that. If I say it needs this thing, you agree that it needs this thing, and there's nobody who can say, oh, it doesn't need this thing. It becomes objective, not because I said it, not because it's my opinion, but because it's now irrefutable. You cannot remove it, can't be broken down into simpler parts. No part can be added or removed. It has to have these criteria. And if it doesn't have these criteria, it's simply not art.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I understand why it's important for you to make this premise. I will not be on board with all the respect in the world. You will not be able to get me to say this thing is what art is, and anything outside of this definition is not art. I'm also
Bet you I could.
surprised. I,
Bet you
you,
I
you,
could.
I promise you, you can't. Well, so let me explain why, and then you can decide if you could. How about that? the reason I would say that you probably can't, and I say that as just for me personally, not that you couldn't be able to do it in someone else, but there are some things. So my degree is in quantitative psychometrics, which is basically taking complex, messy experiences that are human and making them concrete and measurable. And one of the challenges with that as a concept is that it's a fun concept, taking things that feel messy and assigning direct, obvious, clear, indisputable meaning. But the unfortunate reality of things like art and music and reflective experiences, dance, interpretive experiences, is that they are so definitionally non-objective. And so it's the premise of trying to assign an objective statement to something that is by design subjective. That is the reason I think you would not be able to get me to agree. It's more on the principle than the content of the definition. Although I will say your definition is a great place. It's certainly more comprehensive than ones I've thought of. But it's more about the idea of trying to establish something so qualitatively definitive to something that by its very nature varies not just culturally, not just across time, but also within a person, right? It's like, I might put some fabric, put some paint on a canvas, and I might not consider it art because I don't like it, right? Somebody else might consider it art, but like whether or not it's art is we can have a sort of finite, constrained conversation about it based on a specific definition. But unfortunately, so much of this, the reason we run into problems like what even is AI art? Is AI art? The reason we run into that is because of the subjective nature of what art is. It's what allows us to have the conversation. I would counter what you'd said earlier, which is that the ability for us to have that definition is, I think you said, correct, I could be wrong, but I think you said something like, in order for us to have this conversation, we need a shared definition of art. And I think it's actually the fact that we don't have a shared definition of art is what allows us to even be able to have this conversation. So,
Exactly. Thank you, Diane.
Diana, I'm so sorry, Diana.
Diana, sorry, my bad.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It happens a lot. Now, just
I disagree, Diana. Here's why.
Yeah.
Like you super intelligent. Like, please understand that I deal with Dr. Barry and them all the time, and we get people to be yeah, like they're not listening. Like you strike me as reasonable and intelligent. I disagree with you, and I think if I could logically break it down for you, like you're familiar with the laws of logic, like you're with me there. I don't have to dumb it down and like explain what those are for you, right?
No, you're good.
Fantastic. If I can show you, logically speaking, that in order for it to be art, it objectively has to have these sets of criteria, and anything that do not have these set of criteria do not qualify as art, that would have to be an objective definition. Because if it wasn't objective, you'd be able to say, no, you don't need that part, and you can remove it. But I guarantee you, you cannot remove any portion of this and still receive art.
So I will do this as an exercise, but again, you will you will not convince me that something that is in and by its definition, or I'm sorry, by its experience, subjective, can be operationalized into something this. Like you're trying to say, I can lay out the logic of what makes art, and that is a philosophical exercise to the extent that it's logic. And I don't disagree. I have no doubt that you could. That particularly given, and again, I'm not looking at the definition, but you laid out a very concrete set of criteria, and I have absolutely no doubt that you, or potentially I, if I was looking down at it, could identify that nothing can be removed or nothing can be. I don't dispute that at all. My dispute is with the idea. It would make it logical. It would make it logical, but that's like asking.
If it has to have these things and it can't not have these things to exist, then objectively it needs these things to exist. That would be objective.
That is the logical conclusion of that statement. The problem, the challenge I'm running into here is that art isn't logical in the same way that
I disagree. Again, how you perceive it is illogical. You have a subjective experience. You said yourself, you can make an arts and craft and you could say, oh, I don't really consider it art. but it's fine because I guarantee you the little arts and crafts thing that you did would still meet all the criteria. And just because you didn't consider it art doesn't mean that it's not.
My man,
I,
I
I
grant you
think
this.
I think I think you're confusing how it is received with what it is.
No. Okay. So I hear you. I'm not because I'm talking about. Well, I suppose actually. Sorry. Say that. Give me that criticism one more time. Say that again. You think I
I
am?
think
Say that again.
I think you're confusing how it is perceived with what it actually is.
I hear yes. Okay. I hear what yes, you're saying that because I am basically saying how I feel about it matters to the whether or not it's art. And you're pointing out that
No,
that
that's false. How you feel about it doesn't matter. I
right,
hate
that's what I'm
Taylor
saying.
Swift. I hate Taylor Swift, but it's still music. I don't get to say I don't like Taylor Swift, therefore
Right.
it's not
But if
music.
but you're so what you're pointing out, if I'm to steelman your point, right? You're saying that what I'm effectively saying is whether or not I think it's art is irrelevant. How I feel about whether it should be considered art is irrelevant to your definition. No, that's the steelman. I'm not trying to back down. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to back up your argument. I'm trying to make sure I understand it.
No, and I appreciate the steel man. I yes, for the most part, I what I am saying is that this definition is locked and ironclad. If anything does not have these criteria by any metric of definition that you could ever give me, it would not be art. But anything that does have these components are art. Now, whether or not it's well received has no bearing on if it is the thing that it is or not.
Like I said, I'm willing to concede that. I am absolutely willing to concede that your definition, if you want to go through the exercise of outlining exactly why each one, and we can talk through this as a logical exercise, absolutely happy to. I think the challenge is that you will not convince me that in the real world experience of art that it can be made sorry no I'm doing what you just said again, which is I'm confusing the or I'm mixing up, I'm merging my language between the experience of art and what is art.
Can I ask a
Like I
question?
said, I don't. Yeah.
Do you mind? Just curious. Has anybody ever actually put into AI itself and used the AI, say, connective brain or whatever makes AI, and see what AI says on the subject?
I'm sure they
Could
have. I
I
know that
could,
AI
but
will. I have a
isn't the
suspicion of what
intention?
AI would say. I think somebody might have done this in the conversation yesterday. It
Just
is.
curious.
Yeah.
Because
No.
it
Of
makes me want
course.
to, it makes me want to look it up right now on because so Diana, me fandom is allowing me to use this chat GPT for some of my daily life. But that's what
Hmm.
I use AI for. So like the questions I have answers I want to ask so I don't have to like search Google for it.
Well, what I challenge for if you're open to it, I do challenge. Oh, are you okay? Okay, you're muted. I'm
Jesus,
guessing you're okay. Okay.
Jesus,
I will say I challenge I would certainly be willing to challenge that use of AI. I think using AI as a search engine is a gross uh represents a gross misunderstanding of what AI is and can do, but that's a separate conversation. But I listen, Phantom, I don't have any disagreement with your conception of what art is, particularly in this I'm not sure if I wonder if you're hearing what could you steel man what I'm trying to say? Agent, are
I
you
think
okay? Sorry. Can we just okay. Your
No,
camera's moving up and down, you're
I'm
making me
good.
nervous.
It's just
Okay.
this sinus cough just has been kicking my ass lately.
Totally fine. You turned your camera on and then it went up to the ceiling and I was like, is my man still there? What's going on? Okay. Sorry, Phantom, go ahead.
okay. You're asking me to steel man your position. Is that what we're doing?
If you're willing to, you don't have to, but that would be my
Oh
ask.
no, no, absolutely. Like, please,
Yeah.
let's sharpen iron. What I hear you saying is that you agree with the definition that I have put forth. However, in your day-to-day activities, when you see art, when you experience art, you personally would be hard pressed to be able to assign that definition to the experience itself because everybody experiences it differently. Thus, for you, it would have to be subjective, so there can be no objective definition
Ah.
for it.
Okay, thank you for still nodding because that helps me clarify where I'm not being clear. So I appreciate that. Let me try this a different. Let me approach this slightly differently because it is not my intention to communicate that it's about how I personally experience this. Give me one
Well,
split
not
second so I can think through
not even
my.
just you personally, just subjectively. Any person on the street,
Yeah,
they're going to see it subjectively. Let's keep it away from you. It's not about you. Every person, no matter what the image is, they're going to see
right,
it differently. So
right,
because
and
of that, you're saying it's subjective, so there can't be an objective definition of it.
that so okay. I understand why you got that from what I am saying. That is not my intention. That is not my intention. Give me a split second to think through the best way to rephrase this a little differently because I do think language matters. I think language is important. The words we assign to things are important. What exactly let me figure out how to phrase this differently.
While she's
Um,
thinking how to phrase that, to answer the comment, Jesse, yes, this is philosophical, but this is a conversation that we need to have right now. Because if we don't have this conversation about AI, then 10 years down the line, when more people are using it, we won't know how to make laws to regulate. We won't know how to define what people
oh,
who use AI and their daily lives or at work, or how to help people use it or not use it, or to structure life around it. So this
oh,
type
now
of
see, now you're
conversation,
now you're
You see,
speaking my language. AI
I
regulation is where it's at. Okay, I will
I'm
say,
I'm with you, and I agree, but I disagree because none of these things are the topic for me. Does it need
well,
regulation?
here's
Yes. Are there things that need to be like reeled in? Yes. Is it doing harm to some people because they're making CSAM with it? Absolutely. I'm not turning a blind eye to this so that
absolutely.
I can make taco pictures. Like that's not
yes.
what I'm saying.
No, no,
Our
no, no. I
argument
know.
here.
Okay, Phantom. I know that's
Hold on,
not this conversation, but
hold on. My only contention here is that AI art is art and that the people who make it are artists. That's all. Like,
I've,
I'm not here to
I've
talk about the copyright or the plagiarism or if they
no,
can
and I
sell it
agree
or
with
what they have
you
the right to do
100%. What
with
I was
it.
trying to say,
None of
Phantom,
that's here for me.
was this conversation about AI being art and AI being artist is what starts the broader conversation of everything else about AI. So this conversation definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
can
This
I
is not the platform for it. I also think that look, it's Pride Month. I think that Pride Month and mental health are very important, but those aren't the topics that we're talking about here.
No, no, no. I
That's
100%
not
agree.
my
I'm
platform.
saying that you started a conversation about AI that needs to happen in the future in a more broad sense, and this is the best way to start it. So,
All right, man.
yeah, this
You got
is
your thoughts sorted out, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
You got your thoughts sorted out.
Yeah, so here's what it is for me. To be clear, the scope of this and I appreciate what you just said here, which is we're trying to really narrowly scope this conversation. And if the entirety of the scope of this conversation is about the statement on the screen, there is no debate based on the like the definition you laid forth is indisputably characterizes art and it makes AI artists. I The reason that you'll find me straying from the topic of whether AI is art or adding additional pieces to this, not unlike what Agent just did, is that I, and perhaps this is about the world that I live in and the world that I come from professionally, but like I cannot separate the conversation of whether AI art is art from the implications of considering AI art. And that is why I struggle with trying to identify or trying to stay on this topic specifically because listen, I said at the very outset and I see sinners in the chat being like I said at the outset I agree with you on this. My primary contention is that when we start to apply that definition elsewhere, that is why the conversation can't stop there. It's why we went into museums yesterday. It's why that conversation went into museums. Like I've said, I agree with the point if that's what we're talking about. I think that the conclusions of that, the implications of the affirmative argument here are cannot be divorced from the conversation about defining it in the first place. that is the challenge I'm having. We are having when you want to lay out the logic of the definition of art, that is a worthy exercise. It is a useful exercise. It is a philosophical and logic based exercise. Like meaning the logic element of philosophy. Yeah, and I see Jesse in the comments being like, art is everywhere and in everything and in everyone. I agree with that in principle. I also understand how unhelpful that is in a conversation about defining art. So that's why, to be clear, Phantom, like I'm not trying, I hear you wanting to really nail down the definition, and I agree with the definition, I respect it. It is just, it is the like it is like the prequel to the beginning of the conversation of substance here that comes to about AI and art. Yes, we can define it, but if you want to be able to like, if that's the only conversation, then it's not, for me at least, it's not a particularly useful or interesting one. That's why, and it's like, why am I not able to adhere to the conversation centers? I think I'm explaining here, which is that the constraints of the conversation are very clearly laid out. And I said before, right when I joined, that I agree with that. But if you want to have a substantive conversation, at least with me, about the implications of this statement, that is where I start to have challenges with what we mean by the definition of art, the concept of art being felt, the concept of ownership, etc. So, like I said at the outset, Phantom, I'm not here to debate the definition. I do think that when putting forth the definition and putting forth the statement like AI art is art and AI art is artists, and saying things like, well, AI art lives in museums today, that statement reflects a misunderstanding of how broadly the term AI is used and what it used to mean. There are at least 4 different types of real AI right now. So I'm going to stop because I'm getting off the topic, but I want to explain to you, like, that is why I'm getting off topic. I have no beef with your definition, but there are like that's if we constrain so tightly around that, okay, we can do that. It's just not a meaningful. It divorces the conversation from all the practical implications, and the practical implications for me are the ones. That's what I'm interested in.
100% agree.
And I hear you, Mal, but it divorces everything from the practical application for you. For the rest of us, for example, let me dox myself. I have a separate TikTok account. I have an AI artist who makes music. Second album comes out in July. It's doing really well. I make money from this. Like I'm working hard, and it's paying off. It's been one of the funnest side hustles I've had in a very long time, and I've built a community around it. The problem
That's
that we're
awesome.
having is that people are saying we don't agree with how you did it, therefore it's not real. So the
Oh well, that
impact that
sucks. They
I'm
shouldn't.
looking to deal
Yeah.
with is AI artists are artists. We do make art. We do have a space here. We're not
Ah.
looking to take away from you. We're looking. We hear all the time. You're taking jobs from us. You're taking away from traditional artists. No, what you've come over into our spaces and said, "Don't do it like this. Your music isn't real." My argument only
Okay.
lies
Okay.
here because I need to drive home the point that we have as much of a stake, if not more, than traditional artists. I agree
Now.
with you that there's a litany of other problems that need to be addressed. Like I don't agree with the data centers. I don't like the way the current government won't let us look into renewable energy so we can use windmills to make our data centers. I don't like what's happening in the world with CSAM. But all of these are secondary to the argument of our art is just as much art as yours is, and it
I
deserves its space.
Now, first of all, please hear the sincerity with which I say thank you, because this is very helpful in kind of understanding. It's so hard. If I just super quick tangent, it's so hard to have these conversations sometimes. In part because the premise of the conversation starts in 2 different places, right? So, for example, if you could just bear with me, right? When I see the statement AI is art and AI artists are artists, I am also going to lightly dox myself. I'm not going to do it a ton, but to lightly dox myself, I build AI systems, I build software, and I build museum experiences that are intended to be digital, that are digital, and I build them in physical spaces. I've also worked in this kind of immersive software for over a decade. And so because of that, quote, baggage that I bring with me. I also worked in regulation for a while. I was part of the GDPR implementation, blah, 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 other things. That's a different topic. But because of the background that I come from, I look at this And my immediate first thought is, well, first of all, what do you mean by AI? Because sometimes there's different types, as you've already acknowledged, there's different types of AI. Some of that is art, some of that maybe isn't, some of it isn't, there's no human input at all. Sometimes there is. And so my background leads me to approach this from a position of technical explanation and like art in context. Now, of course, you and I have different experiences, as does Asian, right? And what I'm hearing, which is a crucial part of this, is your aim is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your aim isn't even necessarily to argue, for example, that AI art should be treated copyright wise, for example, the same way other types of art are. But I'm not making a claim either way, but like, that's not the kind of argument you're making. You're coming from a place of saying, hey, I have put work into this. I have learned how to use this tool. And frankly, how dare you? Because I didn't have access to a tool like this before. And now that I do, I can do things that I'm really proud of. And how dare you say that that's taking away from you? Right? Like, it was taking away from, wait, I think I mixed my pronouns here. But like, that's what you're getting at, no?
In a nutshell, yes. It's
Yeah.
you look at Spotify right now, and there are 3 AI songs in the top 5. Like, AI is number one. It's getting the most streams. It's getting the most views, and traditional artists feel threatened by it because they don't understand the skill that went into it, the time that went into it. If we
Yeah.
didn't do it the way they did it, it can't be real. Yet here we are, surpassing you in your own fields. So the only way they
Yeah.
can beat us is to somehow convince everybody that our shit's just not real.
Okay. Now, so, okay, let me first start by acknowledging we are past the like, are we okay? Is it okay for me to stay up here acknowledging that we agree on the premise and we are now kind of talking a little bit about something else? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I appreciate the conversation. I knew we had it in us yesterday. It was a little chaotic.
It was a little chaotic. No, and I appreciate, like, so yeah, this is the challenge, right? Is that, and I feel like, at the risk of getting too philosophical here, like, this is the challenge with so many of these kinds of conversations, is that we all really are starting from well, agenda is a little harsh, right? But like, I can fully acknowledge I came into this conversation with an agenda. And yesterday when we started talking about AI art, I'm a technologist and I work in museums. And so I get very excited and animated about talking about like some misunderstandings in the general populace about what different types of AI are and their environmental impacts and what kinds of things they can create autonomously and not, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so this is helping me understand. I have witnessed the backlash you are describing. Now, I don't personally, well, actually, you might say that I do use AI to make art. I'd be curious to hear if you think I use AI to make art. I can describe that process if you want. But I would say that I don't. So, okay, um, I'll start by saying I would say that I don't use AI to make art. However, you could tell me if I'm wrong. So one of the, I have to be careful about how I say this so I don't dox
Yeah,
my
don't do it.
company.
Don't NDA yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
no, hold
don't
on.
do that.
Yeah, no, all right, I'm going to give I'm not going to give an exact example because I didn't think that through before I said it. Let me give a parallel kind of example. That's not exactly what I did, but similar. Um, what I did many years ago my interest primarily was in visualizing artistically to some extent how people's online behavior reflects their offline actions. Okay. And part of that job was about collecting a huge amount of data, identifying patterns within it, and applying a particular type of computer vision model to identify similarities on different, I'm oversimplifying, but identify different similarities and patterns across certain types of data sets. Now, if you do that, you can basically build what's a predictive model that allows you to say, based on the patterns I've identified in this X large data set, whatever, right? Here's how we would anticipate that behavior playing out. It's the same kind of thing that they use in the financial markets. Now that is a machine whose job is that you've been given a task and your job is to effectively, we make it look a lot prettier than what I'm sounding, but effectively, your job is to plot the trajectory based on the patterns that you see. And ultimately, it is a statistical question. And that's often what's the case when we're talking about any of these models. Now, there are those who would say that is marketed. Again, I'm being a little bit generic here for the purpose of not outing myself, but there are those who that experience is described as an AI powered experience. Now, that is not to say that AI generated the code base, what we call the front end, the visual experience of the UI, right? All that. AI didn't generate that, but it is AI powered. But that is a qualitatively different tool than the idea of, for example, typing into choose your agent of choice and getting an image back. It's not necessarily, one isn't necessarily better than the other, but they are the only thing those two things share is that they can be loosely categorized in broadly artificial intelligence. But it's really like they're completely different versions of artificial intelligence. Now, whether you would consider what I did art, I think it could be. It is a visually cool thing, right? But and I see something in the chat also about and they have different environmental impacts as well. And so this is the kind of thing that I end up starting to talk about, and that I think it's really hard to separate in these conversations. So anyway. Do you think that is what I just described to you? Is that AI art?
It's a gray area for me personally, and I'm saying for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
because I would say if you didn't intend for it to be, then anybody who reads anything into it isn't getting what you put into it. They're doing that themselves, which would make it, subjectively, I think it's art. For it to be objectively art to me, I think that you would have had to intentionally sit down and say, I'm looking to create something aesthetic that has symbolic meaning. And
Oh,
you
I
didn't
did,
do
but I
oh,
did. I created a visual layer, right? It was a visualization that you could experience, but it was rooted. The data that it was using to create those lines were that ultimately resembled the vicissitudes of a particular set of behaviors. It doesn't matter the details, but it creates a visual presentation that you can interact with, but it's based on real data. And
yeah,
I intentionally
absolutely.
designed it right. But
If it was your intention, yes, then yeah, it would qualify as the definition of art. Now,
perfect.
whether you subjectively said it was, that would be up to you. But objectively, it fits the definition.
Totally. Okay, so we're on the same page about that. Sometimes the reason I have challenges in a conversation like this is because I think you and I both understand that the putting air quotes around AI that did what I just described and the putting in quotes AI that I might be running if I prompted insert I don't actually use them. So I don't know if Claude does images, but Claude, whatever, agent of choice, right? I'm not saying one is better because so for example, I'm a software engineer and I had resources that not a lot of people have access to. And that doesn't mean I should gate whether it's art based on that, but it is a qualitatively different technology. And as long as because you and I have we've established a shared definition, we have no problem with this, right? We're having this conversation. But what I got stuck on yesterday, and what I frequently get stuck on in conversations like this, particularly as a self-identified nerd, is what do you mean when you say AI art? So that's why, and the implications of that are challenging. For me. So anyway, I'm rambling now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think AI is thrown around a lot. Like the AI we're using, stop it. It's not even actually artificial intelligence. That's a buzzword. The correct
Exactly.
terminology that you should be using is large language model. But you gotta cater to your audience. Like if I said large language models is art, they'd be like,
Oh
"What the fuck
gosh.
are you talking about?"
Well, no, I know.
So
So you are obviously correct, but this kills me about the conversations. I know I don't disagree with you. Yes, but it's so challenging because it is a different thing. Because so, for example, can we just agree for this moment to talk about large language models and using those for art? Okay. So I'm going to use ChatGPT as an example because I know I've seen images like that. And what I know about ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is a multimodal large language model, limited memory generative AI. That is my understanding of that is what ChatGPT is. And what that means technically is that ChatGPT is actually not identifying what images it should use. It has a limited memory and it's image and meaning, I'm sorry, it's word and meaning based. So it poses an interesting question about whether if we sort of agree that we're talking about large language models with a short-term memory, meaning not like actual full intelligence, right? Sure, a language model that is generative, prompt based with limited memory actually can't generate like generate an image. It can amalgamate images. It can combine them based on similar forms of meaning. But it raises an interesting question about whether your art, whether that's art. Yeah, Anthony. Sometimes I do data visualization, but it looks like art. It's kind of complicated, but like, so this is the challenge, right? Is that there's a very real conversation and reasonable experts disagree on whether you can actually say that under the hood, ChatGPT is creating any kind of image. Now, how that impacts whether AI is art or AI is artist, I'm not sure that it does. But it's it's important to know if you want to create a career, like I'm sure there are many great digital artists. Did you draw what's on here, by the way? Did you make this graphic?
This is actually a amalgam of Dr. Barry's original one. I just
Okay.
swapped it out to a different character.
Either way, beautiful, right? But the point is that like there's a very real technical debate to be had about whether it's even fair to characterize some of those large language models as actually doing any image generation at all. It's far more likely that what they're really doing under the hood is semantic matching of related concepts, which is what happens in that like neural network thing. But more, I mean, there are so many nuances here, and I could talk about all of these, but like, I think this gets at like the core of what I'm interested in some of these conversations, which is what exactly do you mean? And once we're on the same, like we've established a shared definition, but so often people don't, and that's what like the details of what kind of model you are running actually matter to what you are creating. Or when you come across an article that says, here's this, there's that the article that was being shared in yesterday's live at the Getty Museum. So I followed up on this, and it is AI generated art, but crucially, it is not AI generated through an LLM prompt. What it actually uses is computer vision for certain types of enhancement on source material. That matters, right? Because misunderstanding that leads us to say things like, well, that piece of art that's in the Getty Museum is functionally the same thing. I mean, it's the same kind of, it's both AI, but it's not. And that's like, I am totally fine to have, I'm okay with lots of opinions. I don't actually even have a super strong opinion on what art is necessarily. What I do have strong opinions on is making sure that those who talk about AI in any capacity are being clear about what kind of AI you mean, because without that, the conversations, again, not to bring it back to things like regulation and copyright, but they're the obvious next step to the argument here. And when you try to talk about those things, which are the implications of the conversation that's on the screen right now, then those distinctions start to matter. And so if we can't talk about those distinctions at the beginning of the conversation, they're incredibly likely to get lost moving forward. So yeah, we're in agreement though. We're in agreement. I think maybe.
Yeah, for the most part, I think I want to ask you. As I hear you talk, I I hear you making a distinction between, say, large language models that are used to make what we would consider quote unquote museum quality pieces, and then large language models that I guess for the purposes of our conversation we would say are for commercial use. Are you drawing a
No,
divide
no,
between those two?
no, not at all. No, well, certainly not in based on like quality. Absolutely not. No, what I'm not in quality. What I'm describing is that the like technical man behind the curtain of AI, that it's a different technology, right? So like it is what's another way to put this? What I'm saying is that in museums today, there are, when I made the statement yesterday that there are no LLM prompt generated pieces of art in prominent museums today. That was the claim yesterday. And I am absolutely not saying, although I know somebody said this and said that I was saying this, which is, I'm so glad you raised this. I am not talking about the quality. You can see shitty pieces of art, shitty AI art, probably. I haven't actually seen that many in museums. And you can see incredible art done like what's on the background here or other types of art. I am not comparing the quality of the museum stuff. Believe me, I've seen some shitty museum stuff. What I'm describing is the actual technology, like the underlying, it is a different tool with a different purpose and a different outcome. And so not only is it a different tool with a different purpose, a different purpose and a different outcome, it's also you arrive at the collection of computerized reasoning that is that piece of software through a totally different means. So it's not about the quality or the scale. It's certainly true that museums have more money and more resources, but that's not what makes the difference between whether the art can be in a museum or it's not. I'm not making a statement about, like, for example, I'm not arguing that ChatGPT quality, quote unquote, art can't match human or anything like that. That's not what I'm arguing in any way. But the contention was, well, these are already being used in museums, and I want to be that I jumped on because it highlights the kind of misunderstanding that I run into a lot, which is I see this AI and it's AI, so it must be the AI I use, and it is not necessarily because one is commercial and what's not, but I mean that the way it runs, the way it comes to decisions, and I use it, I'm sort of personifying it a little bit, but largely speaking, the way it comes to decisions, the way it evaluates whether its decisions are good, the way that it takes what you are saying in like a prompt and converting it into the kinds of tokens that particular model can use and as inputs to its multimodal output, like all of those, the mechanism is a different tool. So any concerns, for example, about and I'm not here to debate the details of it, but for example, like there are lots of people who say, well, you can't, and I've said this too, but you can't identify the real source material for some ChatGPT art is one argument, right? That ChatGPT collects from all the different places. And so it'll have an image of a sunset and it'll pull that image of a sunset. Sorry, I said sunset because that's what I'm looking at. It'll pull that image of a sunset and that's not your sunset, that's somebody else's. Fine. But that argument only applies in the case that you are specifically talking about a large language model, prompt generated, limited memory system, which is what ChatGPT is. I don't actually know the details about Claude. But so I'm talking about that the type of application it is matters significantly. And it particularly matters when we start to talk about the downstream implications, like copyright, like whether or not AI is in museums and all those things. The underlying thing there, the underlying technology is a different type of technology, and all they share is AI, and that's why it matters.
Hear you, and I recognize, I see why you're passionate about it, but I still feel as though we're drawing a distinction where none need exist.
Help
Like
me out. Say more.
I understand that the large language models that the museum guys are using may be trained on different things. They may have people who have more experience in the things that they're doing. Maybe you said it yourself, they've got the money, they've got a bigger budget, they can
Sure.
get all the best toys. That's fantastic. But it you could swap out all of those things and hand him a paintbrush and my definition of art would still stand. I'm not concerned about the medium by which it was created, only that it was created. And I cannot assign a value level to the tool that you use and then
I
say, based on that, this is better art or this is worse art because you could use the best tool and it still sucks.
can
But
I
I've also got a picture like that my kid drew on my refrigerator that I think is a work of art.
Can I ask you a question? Because I think, are you hearing, it sounds like you're hearing me say that the tools they use in museums, to the extent that they use AI in museums, it's just better. Is that what you hear me saying? Because that's not
What
what
I
I'm trying, that's not what I'm saying.
what I'm hearing you say is the tools that they use in museums are not the same ones that we use here. But by implication alone, because you've said, yes, we can have a discussion on if they deserve to be in museums or not, a value has been placed on those saying the ones that the museum people are using are worthy of being put in museums. The large
Ah,
language models that you are using are not.
Okay, okay. I tell you, yes. Okay. Now, would you be open? I see that is one way to phrase it. That is not how I would phrase the argument. Although I hear what you're getting at. Let me be exceptionally clear. I am not saying that the tools that are currently used in museums are better. And when I hear why, it sounds like I'm saying that the things that are not using those tools are quote unquote not worthy of it. If I could just be really specific, that is not what I mean. The reason I say they cannot be in museums currently is because as of right now, it is not possible to do what we call an audit trail. And an audit trail is the kind of thing that we run in the background of software to identify what your source material actually is. And unfortunately, in museums, there is a requirement through procurement departments and curatorial departments. There is a requirement that the material can be accurately sourced to a starting place. It doesn't have to be sourced to a person. It doesn't have to be sourced, and so the reason that it's not going to be in museum is not because the people in museums are doing better stuff. In fact, I've seen some standalone artists in Chicago who have better, cooler AI driven installations than like what I've seen in museums, and they're using very open source, off the shelf stuff. This is not about how expensive it is. In fact, most of the things people use in museums are open source, off the shelf. What I'm trying to clarify, though, is that there is a very specific problem with the AI, generative AI art in the museum space. And that is that currently there is no way to identify what the source material is. If I am the artist of the thing on the screen right now, and I say that I wanted to come up with a piece of art and I used AI to do it. And my intention was to create this dreaming state with a rope. Sorry, what am I looking at? Dreaming state. I'm a dreaming thing of a robot, right? I can do that a few different ways. Whether or not that is art, let's say it is art. It can be art, certainly by the definition that we're talking about. But because if I was painting that without ChatGPT, I could tell you that I was looking out at the sunset across from my apartment, and it was inspired by my dog or the robot that I thought I had. And whether or not that's true, there's a byline associated with that for me creating that art. It is not currently possible to do that just because of the technology that we have. That's not to say that we shouldn't make it possible to do that so that this kind of things can be put in museums. But the reason I said so strongly that you will not find large language model generated art in museums is specifically because of the copyright and because of the procurement constraint. There are rules about how you can decide what goes in a museum. And how you procure that. And one of those, there are regulatory bodies that do this. And one of those is that you have to be able to trace an object's origin, object or a painting or an artifact. And because ChatGPT, at least I know that one cannot do that, we don't have a good mechanism. And believe me, technologists are working on trying to come up with a way to do this. It's not the fault of the creator, it's the fault of the system that they're using. But either way, the absence of the provenance documentation is what it's called for that kind of artifact makes it not eligible for museums. It's not because it's not as good. Oh my God, it's not that at all. It's because of historically the idea that we can have art whose sources remain unknown. That's a fairly new problem, and museums haven't adapted to that. But that's not to say that you won't find things that say AI museum. It's just a different type of technology. And that was where I feel like things got lost. I'm so glad you mentioned, like, I'm sitting here saying that you mentioned that it sounds like I'm saying that one is better than the other. It's not that at all. It is a regulatory nonsense thing. But it's because of the difference in the type of tool that it is. That's why it matters.
And eventually, we will have to figure out a way to regulate it, to figure out a way to define what it is. And conversation like this is the first step into doing that. But it's going to take time. But until then, these conversations do need to happen.
And I really appreciate, my favorite part of this conversation so far has been when the two of us identified our starting places, because I think it really highlights why we were talking, to the extent that we were talking past each other. I think that was why. Right? Or does that feel true to you, Phantom?
Notice, and again,
I'm sorry. You cut out in the beginning. Start over.
This is more for me, not necessarily like this is just me giving Dr. Barry her roses. When we do lives with Dr. Barry, there's 5 or 6 people in the panel. Everybody's waiting to say their thing. Everybody's chomping at the bit. You get a guy who comes in and says, "They took your jobs and it's fucking with our water," and it's just like, man, we kind of got a rapid fire. Let's get through these. It doesn't leave for the subtle nuances of you and I sitting down and having what's now been an hour long conversation trying to hammer this out. So
Can
I
I?
appreciate. Yeah,
Sorry. No, no, no. Sorry. Finish. I didn't mean to cut you off. I shouldn't have. To go ahead.
I appreciate this format because I did one last night impromptu and it went for about an hour and 45 minutes. But what it does is that it lets 2 people completely flesh out what they were trying to say instead of like 5 or 6 other people also looking to double dutch in and get the thing that they wanted to say in. And then we'll get into a meta conversation. And then it branches off into a different thing. And then a new person comes up and we lose track and it gets all confusing. So you and I being able to sit down and say, here's what I hear you saying, is this true, has been very helpful.
I appreciate that. And really, like, the only time I've ever engaged in a live is to have this kind of conversation. So I appreciate that. Would would it? I'm going to ask a question about a boundary of yours, and if you say this is something you don't want to entertain, I will not say another word. Would you be open to me explaining my part of my frustration in the conversation yesterday? And I don't want to I mean, recognizing that I think you all are friends, and I'm happy to keep my mouth shut.
I think yes, I am. But before we do that, let's kind of like put a bow on what we've done here because
Yeah,
I feel like we've gotten there. I
I
think
agree.
you and I agree on what the definition of art should be, and that AI artists definitely qualify. I think your problem is that you work in museums and that's your thing, and then you just like the things that people are making at home with large language models are not the same things that are appearing in museums, and you didn't like that comparison.
Can I make a slightly different? That's so. The comparison is actually doesn't bother me at all, and I think this is what I did a bad job of yesterday. What I was the reason that I got so first of all, let me acknowledge the bookend. I appreciate this conversation, and I yes, I think it's really helpful for us to be able to say like, here's what I'm really getting at, and I also want to say I appreciate when you steal men for me because it helps me understand what I'm not being clear about. What I was struggling with yesterday, and admittedly, I started to get frustrated and a little overstimulated, to be honest. There's a lot going on in that conversation. But one of the things that I found challenging, and what I was really ultimately reacting to, was the host said, you know, we're all kind of tech folks here, while also in the same breath reacting to somebody in the chat who said, you know, AI is racist. And the host said, "Oh, I had mentioned in the chat the work of Joy Bolamwini and the work coming out of the Coded Gaze and the work coming out of MIT." And the host said, "No, I'm familiar with all of those things." Immediately after saying that AI isn't racist, which is the definition. So if you are familiar, I'm not asking anybody in the chat to be, but for someone to claim that they are familiar with Joy Bolamwini's work, support that, agree with it, and then say the opposite of what that work is, highlights to me that that person isn't actually engaging with that work. And what I struggle with is watching people say untrue things about AI or like making, because when companies get away with nonsense, which they do frequently, they get away with it because they rest on the operational model that no one in the general populace knows or cares enough about the details to care about the things they should care about. So we end up having artist infighting, like that you're describing, where some artists say, well, I don't like it, right? And then usually the arguments against AI, while I do think there are a lot of very, very good arguments against it, most of them are rooted in nonsense because they're based on misinformation. And so for somebody who claims to be a subject matter expert to, when I say chat GPT, when you type something into chat GPT, that's a different thing. and that's a different technology. Not about it. Like the conversation, participants in the conversation seem to all agree with what what your summary was, which is that I was saying, oh, one is just better and the other doesn't deserve to be in museums, which is not it at all. But I was explaining in that conversation that there is a fundamental technical difference between what you will see in museums today, not because they're better, but because it's a different tool than what you were doing on when you were responding to a chat GPT. The host said, listen, we're all familiar. We all know this. And what I was frustrated by was that the conversation very clearly indicated that that was not the case. And so I bowed out of the conversation because the host said, well, I'm pulling this up. I'm pulling up the MIT, this example. Look. And I saw in the conversation later while I was just sort of lurking, she was like, well, she said there's no such thing as AI in the museums, but here's this thing I'm looking at in the AI in museums. And if you look at I did look at the article she was reading and she showed the picture of it. If you actually read that article, you will find that they very specifically say what kind of AI it is, and it's not that one. And so I was frustrated by this sort of describing yourself as a subject matter expert and then shooting down well-known established academic consensus on certain elements of AI or certain ways it is used, and then just saying, well, I don't know what she was talking about, because I think she was being, condescending or elitist, or saying that museum technology is just better. And that's not it. Not only is that not it, but what I was frustrated by was there were folks in that chat who purported to be subject matter experts, who would, in the same breath that they purport to be subject matter experts, say things that anyone who is a subject matter expert knows for a fact is simply untrue, not in a matter of like people can agree to disagree. Sometimes there are established scientific facts about what certain software systems are and are not. And I grew frustrated at the contention that these were the same system, not because I care about each system necessarily, but I very much care about public understanding about what these systems are and the differences between them, because I think our inability to do that, our global R, we, global we, if we can't among common folk identify what the differences are, there is no chance our legislators or anything else will do anything meaningful to help us manage this sort of AI life. So that's what I was pushing back on. That's why I was frustrated that any subject matter expert knows that these are different things. And I was frustrated by the listen, the sort of implication that I was being elitist or know-it-all by stating things that somebody who is a subject matter expert should know. It's not an attempt to be conceited to say, I actually do know ball in this particular area. and that is, I do know ball in this area, and there are some things that are simply true and some things that are not. And that was why I pushed back, and ultimately why I left, because it became clear that correcting that kind of misinformation was not something that that audience had an appetite for.
What I'll say is I'm not in the market of defending Dr. Berry. Like Dr. Berry is like she's got her degrees and she's the experts in her field. Like I don't even know the dudes you naming. I don't know nothing about none of the studies. None of it.
She claimed to, though. That's the thing. She claimed to, and then said things that were not true from those studies. That again, this is my issue.
And that very well may be the case. Like honestly, what I'll do is, because you and I have had a very good conversation here, and there was a lot of chatter after our lives, and then in the next one, and then even in the chats about we talk about the guests when they come on.
Sure.
And there were a lot of connotations about you that I now can dispel because I've taken the time to have this conversation with you. I would encourage you, stop it. I would encourage you to, the next time you see Dr. Berry and I on a live together, to come on up. I'll vouch for you. Diana is cool. We had this talk. There may have been some talking past and a miscommunication. And again, in those lives, they're very rapid fire, and half the time they're trolls. It's very easy to just be like, yeah, I know more than you about this, and let's move on. And sometimes we can misspeak. So if Dr. Berry did misspeak, or if you can make a correction, I feel very comfortable speaking for her and saying, we adore being corrected.
And let me be clear, I mean no shade to her. I meant to explain my frustration, and I'm sure that I listened to some of the feedback about me in the chat afterwards. Listen, I have no beef here. I have no interest in necessarily correcting. My intention of explaining my reaction yesterday was in response to this conversation. Whose dog is that?
That's my baby.
Okay, my dog is here too, but he's
Aw.
quieter. Um, yeah, listen, I really appreciate this conversation, and my intention. I am also an academic for what it's worth. Again, I don't talk about this on TikTok because there's no need for it. But like, I get it, I really do. And I mean no disrespect to her. I was frustrated, as I'm sure she probably does get too, with people miss site sources and things like that. It happens though. So I will totally concede to having gotten frustrated by that and also overstimulated. But really, I appreciate this conversation. Let's stay mutuals. I actually am gonna have to go make dinner for children, and God, being an adult
No,
sucks. But
I'm so glad that you stopped by. I'm glad we were able to have this talk.
can I ask a super dumb question? You can tell I'm not on lives a lot.
There are no dumb questions.
What is the blue? Something above my face says a blue 150. What is that?
So you basically got TikTok coins and
I'm
from
not in the
me.
program. Oh,
So
okay.
basically,
You still get them.
it's basically like TikTok Cash. So you can cash out, load up on your coins from what you got, and the next time you go live, the little box at the bottom, you can send a TikTok gift to somebody if you want to.
Oh, okay. But I have the blue coins, not the gold ones. Sorry, I don't. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it.
Yep.
No,
Cool.
the blue. I don't think it really matters if it's a little blue coin or not. They're gonna take like 40% of whatever you get from TikTok for fees. You can then turn around and then put that back in the roses and send it to other people.
I see.
We're
Gotcha.
literally just shuffling pennies around.
Yep.
Cool. Listen, Phantom, it has been a pleasure. I mean that sincerely. Thank you for being willing to kind of carve out some space and let me sort it out. I so appreciate it. My dog feels similarly. It's probably about time to go out, but I really, please hear me sincerely. These kind of conversations are the kinds of things that bring me life, and I also talk about this kind of thing a lot. So thank you for reminding me that not all discourse on the internet is doomed. I really do sincerely appreciate it. Please hear me. I would shake your hand if I
Yeah,
could.
I absolutely do, and I appreciate it. Like the spaces that I'm in don't always afford for me to have time to have logically consistent conversations with people. It's rapid fire. You took her job, so this was really like refreshing for me. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll see you around, but for now, bye bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh boy, my dog is giving me the flux. Y'all hear my baby? She is ranting and screaming. Hey, this is going pretty well, guys. For like my first official outing doing this, this wasn't bad. We took care of what we would have considered a long-standing op from yesterday. Like I think I always felt like there were levels of misunderstanding there that we just weren't getting through because the format didn't allow for such. So I'm happy we were able to have that talk.
Look, there's nothing wrong with having a good conversation, but the topic that needs to have a conversation about it. It's the conversation, and for the political conversation about this for it to happen starts with the everyday people. It starts with us and it builds up into the government, and then we're putting regulations and preparing things and making it easier for life. But it all starts with us, and it's a conversation that does need to be happening.
In most cases, people aren't willing to have the conversation. And
Unfor-
honestly, it's what's funny, man, is I walk in a couple of different worlds on TikTok. Like I got a couple of honeypots that I got my thumb in, and I never, if you were to say, hey, we're gonna have a conversation about AI art, like philosophically, my first thought wouldn't be, hey, I wonder what Ethan's doing, like because like, I know where the Power Rangers community stands with this. I know that they are horribly against it. I've kind of given up on convincing all of them because I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Is what it's gonna be when the time comes. But having someone from that side of the community who, at the very least, can hold their own in a conversation philosophically about the topic is refreshing. because, like, no slight against the Power Rangers community, I don't think a lot of them looking to have philosophical debates. They just kind of say, my friend makes arts and crafts and AI took their job, so fuck AI. And that's pretty much the end of the conversation for them. There's so much more to it than that. There has to be more nuance to it. So having you here is kind of like my bridge to that. So thank you. And you are still muted, my friend. I don't hear you.
That's why I invite me earlier. That's why I told you next time invite me so I can be here to support. Even if I may not agree with everything that you're saying, and we can still have an intelligent conversation about it.
You know what I want? You know what my dream get would be for this? I want Baba Yaga.
That would be awesome.
I want to have this talk with Beauty Baba Yaga. Like, when and understand, I want you to understand the gravity of this for me. This is how important it is for me. Beauty Baba Yaga is probably one of she was the one who taught me intelligent conversations about Power Rangers could be had in the first place. The respect I have for her is tremendous. I have been practicing for this conversation with Baba Yaga the same way I practiced to have the conversation about religion with my mother-in-law when I was married. I have been waiting to have that talk. I am prepped for it. It'll never happen. I don't talk to them no more. I said Happy Mother's Day to her ass. She ain't say nothing back. So like that's not gonna be a talk we can have. But I've been preparing for it for the longest time. And now I'm telling you, I am prepped and ready with sound and logical epistemology that I can have this conversation with Beauty Baba Yaga. And if I think I could sway her, the rest of you would fall like dominoes.
Well, I did send it to her.
Well, you know, live videos aren't necessarily have been her thing ever anyway.
I know.
Come on, baby. Hey, come on. I see you being big and pretty. We gotta go back up. Come on. Come on, big girl. Yeah. Come on. I'ma head up. I shouldn't beat you up these steps. Good girl. I get my dog shit about being unruly, but there was a time when she would eat through her leash in my chair. So the fact that I have to call her 3 times to come on and then she comes and I don't even have to hold the leash, I feel like we're doing okay.
Nothing wrong with that, yeah.
She's a good one. So I see we still got 6 people in here. If there's everybody scream who disagrees with my point is AI artist. I challenge you to come up here and test the throne. Let's have that conversation. You and me, right now. I have what I think is a rock solid argument. So much so that Diana, who disagreed with me vehemently yesterday, was like, yeah, fuck, yeah, shit. Okay. So I feel like I got this. So let's go. Damn, I left my drinks in the freezer too long. I always do that.
Yeah, it happens.
I've got an ice cube I can't do nothing with. Then it's going to thaw and it's going to taste watered down. God damn it. Such a pain. Oh, hey, Miss Raven. I see you. You want to come on up here and kick it with me for a minute, Miss Raven? Oh, and Tamika swung by. What's up, Miss Marzi?
My dinner is here. No, Tamika, it just says the live is saying invite her in. She's not actually here. I think. No, she is here.
Oh, that's my boo. That's my boo. She swung through here today. What's going on, Chief? Is Raven still here? You want to come up here
looking? Raven is not here. You've got Sinners, Anthony, Josh, Styles, Dark Barcode, and Tamika.
Oh well, that's all right. It would have been nice. Thanks for stopping by, Meeks. Sydney was here last night, made my whole evening. It's just, I love when one side of TikTok comes over and it's just like, hey, what's going on over here? I so enjoy that. Like, I find it awkward talking to y'all on this account because it's like, it's such a completely different vibe over here. But I'm so glad you came. Thank you for coming and showing support. It truly, truly does mean more to me than you know. Like, as somebody who struggles and is desperate to be understood, it's nice to see that there are people who, even if this isn't your favorite topic, it's like, well, it means something to him. So let me go over here and hit the like button a few times and say what's up. So I truly do appreciate that, Meeks. Like, sincerely. Now, now, I had fun talking to Diana for an hour and a half, and it was productive and it was fun, and we got a lot of stuff done. I kind of just want to cook a fool. I kind of just want like somebody to come in here and just be like, "Oh, it's AI because you stole it." Like I want somebody to come in here so I can rip that apart. Like, you know, thank you, Meeks. Thank you. So can I get anybody in here? Also, you see my picture. You see what I'm doing there, right? You see what I did there? You see that I'm funny, right? I'm funny. I'm funny. I'm Kaiser Soze in this bitch. I knew what I was doing. Anybody, it's 7 people in here. If you disagree with my prompt, I would love to have you up. If not, I can wind down. I have already gone longer than I intended to go, but I also kind of expected that there would be 2 or 3 like complete chumps that came in, and I would just be able to just like swat them down effortlessly. I didn't get that. So if there's anybody in here who wants to come for the crown, let's have a conversation. I don't know how I managed to get 10,000 likes. It's so funny. I thank you guys for that. Like, sincerely. I personally go out of my way to never ask. But, like, somebody hit it 10,000 times. So I appreciate that so much. Yeah. Thank you, Stout. Like, that's where I am, too. Like, it is. Like, I agree. I can have friendlies up here. Like Ethan's a friendly for the most part. Like it took him a minute to get on board with it, but once he figured he could put his head on Power Rangers, he was like, "Oh, this is dope." So he kind of got into it. But like, no, I wouldn't want to fight with you. I would lose to you on purpose just so we wouldn't fight. How about that? But yeah, I'm looking to. I wanna have my mind expanded, and I want to expand other people's minds while we have this conversation. I feel as though, honestly, the conversation that I just had with Diana was, I won't say it was necessarily eye opening, but it was refreshing to be able to have a long form talk with a single person without a bunch of interruptions from other people. Not that I'm mad at the other panelists, not that I love when we all get together and we're all having a good time. But at some point it becomes a group chat and not us talking about the topic anymore while we wait for ops. But like that doesn't work because if there were ops who were like scrolling by and looking, all they see is this whole echo chamber of people going, "Yeah, people who think AI art ain't art is stupid. Fuck them." Like I probably wouldn't want to join that either. So what I wanted to do was while Diana and I were having a conversation, if you're scrolling through TikTok, wow, these 2 people are having what seems to be an adult conversation. This wow, they're talking philosophy and like they're quoting sources and they're agreeing and still manning their positions. Wow, you know what? I disagree with the prompt. Let me get up here and tell him why and do the same thing. So I think it's important that there's something going on. So, like, I don't want it to just be me and my friends all up here talking shit about people who don't like AI. But at the same time, I need people who don't like AI to come up here so we can have a talk. Itchy! What's up, my friend? Yeah, I'm far more in the chat now because I'm not like focused on the conversation. Diana had me going for a minute. Not like I felt challenged or like, oh man, I gotta come up with a witty retort. but she did make me think. Like there were times where I had to really I can't just give you the quippy, oh, me and Dr. Berry do this every day answer. Like I had to be concise with my shit with her, and I appreciated that. So now I can look into the comments and see what's going on and go, oh, I can see what. And even though they're eating, he ain't offering nobody none, but that's okay. Somebody at my door. Entertain people while I go answer my door.
Yeah, sorry, I'm stuffing my face right now with chicken nuggets.
Oh wow! Look at all the fun that was being had without me while I was gone. Holy shit!
Hey, somebody called Archangel wants to come up.
You know, Archangel was here yesterday when I was talking to that other guy, and I didn't get back to him. So hey, this could be fun. What's going on, my friend?
How's it going, man?
All right, man. Welcome. You showed up. We're gonna do the whole thing all super official. We'll skip the name. I know you. It's cool. But
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
here's your 2 minutes on the clock, sir. Tell me why AI artists are artists, yes or no?
2 minutes, damn. Well, I don't personally think they're artists. I really don't. And you know, hopping back to yesterday, you said what was it? Something like dictionaries are the factual evidence, right?
Yeah, I'm doing. Oh, I don't know you. No, you all good. I hear you. Yes, we adhere to the dictionary. We were doing dictionary stuff yesterday. Since then, I have now refined it. You see, I'm doing solo dolo now. I've got my own thing going on, and I've now
Yeah,
refined
yeah.
my approach. And I tested it out for the first time today on Diana. So I'm happy to run it by you as well and see if you agree with me. But I disagree vehemently with you. AI art is art. AI artists are artists, and I can prove it to you logically and objectively.
Well, that's fine. Go ahead, man. I'm all ears.
Fantastic. Now, the first thing can I just get rid of the countdown clock? It could just go away now. You could just end it. Like we're not doing that. First, you can agree that we would have to nail down what our definitions are, and we should go to the dictionary for that, right?
Well, this is true, and I do agree with that part, but I would also like to point out that word definitions are not alone facts, because in linguistics and philosophy of language, definitions are descriptive of how words are used. English is a contextual language, not one based in wholeheartedly definitive. Um, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm with you, and I understand that you're making the distinction. However, I still take it a step further. I think that objectively, there are things that a thing must adhere to in order to be art. Without those things objectively, it cannot be art. Therefore, there would have to be a logical, objective definition of art. Now, I think I have it, and I'm happy to tell you what that is, and we can walk through it, and I can tell you how I arrived there. And if we can agree to that, it'll make the conversation far more productive.
well, sure, yeah, go for it. But really fast, hold on, let me turn off my fucking notifications real fast. That's really annoying me. Okay. Really fast before that, art is contemporary in nature. I don't think there's any one definition that can fit all of art as a concept, you know? But with that being said, go ahead, man. Let me hear it.
I disagree. I disagree, and I feel like I can walk you through it. Now, I've gone to. Do you want me? I could read. I went to Oxford, Merriam-Webster's, Cambridge, Collins, American Heritage, Britannica, and Dictionary.com. I scraped all of their definitions and I looked for all the commonalities that they had. My goal was to determine if you were to break it down to its simplest components, what would be required for a thing to be considered art. I have
Okay.
what I think is a workable definition that if it doesn't have these things, it cannot be considered art.
All right. Let me hear him.
Art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptual form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing aesthetic, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning.
This is from
This is
this
the
is from
combined
Merriam-Webster,
definition
isn't it?
from every dictionary definition there is.
Yeah, the one you
I've taken
just said, that was from Miriam. No, I think that's the
it,
one
it
I'm
may
looking at.
it may have parts of Merriam. Let me see. The Merriam-Webster's definition was conscious use of skill and creative imagination, especially producing aesthetic objects.
Oh,
So
okay.
part of the Merriam-Webster dictionary is here. Yes.
All right. Well,
My
so I'm gonna.
contention, sir, is that for all of these aspects, if anything holds all of these pieces, it is art by definition. And if it misses any of these components, it cannot be art objectively by definition. Now, I'm happy to walk through each one of those to see if you can agree or disagree, and you may even help me refine this definition. But for right now, I feel like it stands.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree with your definition. I think it stands. But I would also like to point out the biggest parts are conscious and skill, are they not? So, with
Conscious
that
and
being
skill do
said,
not appear in my definition.
what's up?
Conscious and conscious does not appear in my definition.
Well, then I really don't think that it counts because a tree isn't going to make a painting, you know?
Absolutely, because it would need to be an intentional creation or arrangement of a perceptible form.
Okay, right,
Trees
and
don't
that's the
do that.
thing. Intentional, conscious, same thing.
Yes,
One
yes,
and the same.
intentional. Yes.
All right, so then you do agree that it has to be a conscious use of skill if it has intention behind it.
No, I say there needs to be intentional creation. Yes, the intentional creation comes from me, the user.
Okay, well, with that, then, I feel like we can go to something that's a little more withheld, okay? And for that, we'll say, like, let's see, what's a good example? We'll say copyright, all right? So, with copyrightable authorship, under
Hey,
most copyright
let
laws
me
in the
stop you
world,
there. Let me stop you there. I'm my argument is not for capitalism and if I own the IP or if I can sell the IP or what my rights are to the IP. My only contention is that I have intentionally created something in perceptual form using my skill and imaginations that has a symbolic meaning. That's all. What
right,
I can
yeah.
do with it, it has no bearing on it. I don't care if it's copywritten. I don't care if you think it's plagiarized. I have arguments for that. We can get into those later. But
See,
for
I'm
now,
not getting into the
only
whole it's
definition is
plagiarism part. I'm using specific points of what copyrightable authorship is in context to what an artist is. All right. So basically,
but no, but
something.
there is no context here because neither of those things appear in my definition, nor are those my argument. I'm not arguing for copyright law. I'm not arguing that I have the right to sell it. I'm not arguing that I have the right to say that I did it without any intervention. I'm not saying that I don't have to credit the person that inspired me. None of these things are in my definition. My
And
definition
once
simply
more,
says
once
my
more, I'm
piece
not.
fits this definition.
Once more, I'm not talking about the actual copyrightable aspect of it. Just hear me out for 1 second, all right? Under copyright law, and just listen to this definition really fast. Authorship is defined, authorship, the creation, it's defined as the act of translating an idea into a fixed, tangible expression. AI isn't translating anything, it's parroting your description. So, under law, one of the most well recognized pieces of uh, conceptual description we have, that would mean the artist is incapable of being a computer.
I disagree with you. First of all, again, no one's interested in the definition that you just used. We talked it out, we went through it, we agreed on the definition that you said, yes, This is the definition. To argue against my definition, you went to a different definition and said, aha, I don't
No,
care.
listen, I'm not arguing. So it's AI artists are artists. That's the point I'm arguing against right now, not AI being art.
AI artists are artists. And again, I'm happy to walk you through why my definition meets this criteria for AI artists across the board.
Okay, so specifically AI artists. Walk me through that one.
Okay, and again, it doesn't. I'm going to give it to you for art, and this is why I'm not even going to make a differential for traditional art and AI art. I'm going
Okay,
to
see,
show you. I'm
one
going to
thing
show you
I
that
I have
AI
heard
art
and I
qualifies
understand and
under
I
the definition.
yes, I have heard and I understand and I agree with your definition of what art is. Now,
Okay, so
specifically
so
AI
so so
artists. What makes
so
the
so let
AI artists artists?
okay. So you're okay with the definition for art. Your contention now is if I should be considered an artist.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a completely separate thing for that. I also, while I was doing that, I went to all those exact same dictionaries and I got the definition of an artist. So I then took all of those and I amalgamated them into one concise definition of what I think an artist is. I am considering this the objective definition because you cannot remove any of the parts from it, and it needs all of these pieces to be considered an artist. I'm going to read it to you now. You can tell me if you agree with it. An artist is a person or creative agent who intentionally uses skill and imagination to create, arrange, or perform art.
Yes. I agree.
Fantastic. So you agree with this statement.
I do.
So if AI is art and the person who made it would be called what?
The AI in this case would be the
No,
artist.
The AI is not a creative agent. The AI is
Exactly.
not a person. No, I'm the person. I have provided all of those things and I have used the tools at my discretion to create art. All I have to do is create intentionally, use creative design, and have symbolic meaning. AI fits that description to a T. And if my art fits that description, it only falls logically that a person who makes art is an artist.
See, I don't think that's true because
Okay, okay, you know what?
ideas
Let's
are
let's let's
conceptuals.
try this.
Okay,
Let's try this. Very simply. The
very
the
simple.
argument that I've been going with is person plus tool equals art. If you wanted to make a song, you would pick up your guitar. If you wanted to sing, you would pick up a microphone. If you wanted to draw, you would pick up a pencil. You see where I'm going with this? There's a
Yes,
person,
but
there's a
with
tool. They use that tool to express themselves. The end result would be art. Now, I
except
want you.
with
No,
those
no, there
exact
is no except.
same.
There
Well, there
is no
kind of
except,
is.
and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why. Let's say you want to make music and you want to play guitar. I'm going to remove the guitar from your repertoire. Can you now make a song without the guitar?
No, I guess you couldn't if the song
Okay,
involves a
okay,
guitar.
okay. Now, if let's say you had the guitar, but you had no idea, no concept, would the guitar make anything on its own?
Like without you touching it at all? No.
Without you touching it, it's sitting there. You've got the idea, you didn't touch it.
No.
Would it do it on its own?
Definitely not. That's.
Okay, so now let's swap that out. I'm an AI artist and I have ChatGPT 16.0. It is the most state of the art, super sophisticated fucking AI you have ever seen. If I sit down in front of it and I don't touch it, will it produce anything?
No.
If okay, so it needs me plus the tool to equal art. I have now satisfied all of your conditions. All I need to do is be a person who uses a tool to express myself. I have done that across the board.
You are
AI
forgetting the biggest
art.
part of this. okay? And just hear me out for a second. Don't interrupt me real quick. Now, the biggest part is the conscious use of skill, okay? The guitar doesn't make music. Your ideas
Yeah.
are conceptual. You have to go out of your way to learn the theory, to touch the strings. Now, ideas, they are conceptual. No one can own an idea. You're not an artist for having an idea. You're an artist for applying your idea in a creative, conscious manner using your own skill. AI, it does not have consciousness, it does not have skill. You are describing an idea and having something else make it for you, make it tangible.
I have to stop you. I have to stop you because you can give me no symmetry breaker between the guitar, a keyboard, a pencil, or the AI. I'm not claiming that the AI is conscious. In fact, when we walked through it together, we agreed that the AI without me would do absolutely nothing. Nothing. So you can't say I'm depending on the AI. I'm not. I'm giving the AI my idea and then it's moving forward with the things that I told it. The same way when you pick up the guitar, the strings don't know which ones you want to pluck. You have to physically do that yourself. That's a skill. You are the creative person who has implemented the skill. And what you are trying to do is equate the tools. You're saying where your tool does it really, really well and it's stealing other people's ideas and it's not really you doing it. It's not really you making the music with the guitar either, is it? It's you moving your fingers and then the guitar is doing its thing because that's what it does. The AI is doing the exact same thing and you can't show me a symmetry breaker. Please unmute.
However, I did show you the symmetry breaker. I feel like you're missing the point. Let me be just a tad bit more descriptive here.
What's your symmetry breaker?
My symmetry breaker is using all of your previous references. You pick up the pencil, you tap it against a page, you move it of your own conscious and free will. You are both the creator of the concept and the person who translated it. Now, okay, I'll use this as a more clear way to get this little message out. If someone has an idea for the movie, they are the director. The film crew, everyone else who makes it real, the studio, they are the people who still made the movie in the end. The guitar, it doesn't know what strings you're plucking. It doesn't even know how the strings are working because the guitar is not conscious, much like AI, obviously. Now, you can make the idea, and that makes you sort of a creative ownership of it, but ideas are conceptual, like wholeheartedly. There's nothing you can do for the idea to then be yours until it's tangible. If you ask someone to draw you something, you may have described what you want, but they are the artist for making it tangible. That's the divide there. So with this definition of art, the AI is then the artist, not the person who says the description of what they want. The AI is simply
I disagree.
the middle.
I disagree. You're just describing different tools, and I'll walk you through that. I'm a person. I have a creative idea that I want to make. I want my buddy Kev to make me a Power Ranger helmet. Okay? And I have an idea in my head. I don't know how to draw worth shit. So I go to him and I say, hey man, I've got this idea for a Power Ranger helmet. And Kev gets to work. Now, Kev's been doing it for years. Kev knows what he's doing. And he comes back and he presents it to me. And I go, you know what? Can you change this? Can you move this a little bit? Oh, okay, cool. And then he brings me the completed work. And am I the artist? No. But is it my art? Yes.
No,
This was a
it's
creative
your
process
idea.
because Kev could not have done a thing without my input. In this instance, Kev is simply the tool or medium I am using to express myself. And the end result is the thing that I said expresses myself. And just so we can knock this out of the way right now, you have to agree with me 100%, or I really feel like we can't go any further. If I'm doing a thing that expresses myself, I have to be the only person, the sole arbiter that can say, yes, this thing definitively does match the thing that I was thinking about. No other person gets a say-so in that. It has to be me, right?
Well, that's the thing about ideas. All right, you can
But
have
but
the
yeah,
idea, but
but
if
if
Kev
I have
makes
an idea in my mind and then you show me the idea, I get to say yes, that's the idea, right? You
the
can't tell me
artist
it's not.
is the one that translates it into something tangible,
I'm
and
not I'm
this
not
Kev is
asking about
making
the
sure.
translation. I'm asking if I am the only person who can say yes, this is the image that was in my mind.
No, because Kev is the one making the
Okay,
thing.
okay, but you don't get so for you to say that you know what the image in my mind is better than me. Are you in my mind?
No, I'm not saying that, not
But that's
whatsoever. What
exact. That's
I am
exactly what
saying
you said.
is Kev is.
The logical implication of what you just said was, "Hey, you're not the sole arbiter of if that thing matches the thing in your mind because Kev did it. I don't care which medium I use. If I painted it with a paintbrush, if I used chalk, if I used smoke signals, if I used crayons, if I used
Phantom, sorry to
digital art."
interrupt, but I do need to drop out. I'm getting
Go
a
ahead, buddy.
phone call. I would talk. I would try to be back. If not, I would talk to you later, my friend.
I see you later, buddy.
Peace
I
and good
it,
luck.
it doesn't matter to me the medium by which I use. In this example, Kev is the medium. Kev is the creative sculpture. Kev is the 3D printer that I'm telling, hey, I want it at this height, at this length, at this depth, at this width. I'm get at this color. Here are my hues. I'm prompting him to give me what it is I want. And when he presents it to me, the only person that can say, yes, that was what was in my head is me.
I agree with that part that you can say yes, this is what is in your head. But are you
Okay,
familiar with the term commission?
but there we go. That's all I need. I was a person who had a creative idea. I used the medium to express myself in a symbolic form. Here's the helmet. Congratulations, we've just made art. This art would not have existed without me. This art would not have existed without the tools that I use. But here it is, fitting the definitions that we agree to, that it is in fact art.
That's the thing. It's not the tools you used, it's the tools Kev used. Because,
What
are you
is yes,
familiar
yes,
with the
yes.
term
CAD is the
commission?
tool that I use.
Are you
Yes,
familiar with the tool or the term commission? Is that something that's ringing a
yes,
bell in your
yes,
noodle?
yes. I've taken commissions. Yes,
Okay, great. So then, by all logic, then, since you want to keep bringing up logic, if it has
I do.
always worked that you contact an artist to make your art tangible, and that's what makes them the artist, when does it?
Straw man. That's not what I said. I said a person who uses a tool to express themselves. In a commission, the tool would be the other person, the person who is more skilled than me, the person who has more experience than I do in this and that can bring my vision to life better. In no way, like, the commission is just the guy who's doing it. Replace commission guy with AI. Commission guy would sit there and do absolutely nothing without my instruction. He can't do anything until I tell him what to do. He is the tool here. That's all. When he's done, he's going to present it to me and say, is this what you wanted? And if I say yes, then it matches. That's the thought that was in my head. Congratulations, I now have art. If it doesn't, he can refine it. And after several revisions, which is the level of control that most people think that you don't have in these things, now, after 6 revisions, it's now the image that I want. Congratulations, it's art. I I have met the criteria of the definition over and over and over, but I don't know what it is you're trying to sneak in to say, but because none of it seems to be working. You can unmute.
The simple reason that it doesn't seem to be working is because you keep just saying what I mean, you're projecting here. You're saying I'm going nuh-uh, but it's always worked in one very simple way. You have an idea, you contact an artist who brings it to life, and that's what makes them the artist.
Let me stop you there. There's your problem. It's always happened a certain way. You're hung up on the presupposition that it has to be this way. Guess what, bro? It's 2026. There are new tools on the playing field. We don't have to do it that way anymore. I don't have to contact Kev anymore. I can program it into a 3D printer and do it. Congratulations. We have new tools. You're hung up on, well, it's always been this way. I don't care. I have met the definition objectively. You agree to the definition of art. You agree to my definition of artist. I've shown you how it breaks down fundamentally that you need all of these components, and I've shown you that AI has all of the components for both definitions. And your response is still, nuh-uh.
So, real fast, is there any way we can walk through this from the very beginning and just find some common ground here? Because you've shot down literally everything so far. You're not trying to have a debate. You're just saying you're right, and that's not how these things work. So just from the
No,
beginning,
no,
fresh
you're
take.
you're disputing. You know what? Let's not do the meta. Let's walk through the argument again because I offered to like baby step you one by one through the process, and you were like, "No, it's fine. I agree with the definition." So we didn't do that. Are you asking me to do that? I can break it down bit by bit for you, and then we can get there.
Right, from the start, let's do it.
Okay. Again, art. This is my definition of art that we're working with. Art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptible form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing aesthetic, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning. Do you agree with this definition?
Before I say yes, do you really mean the skill part? And explain, if so, how your skill is contributing to the AI's generation.
Yeah. I will break it down as we baby step you, as I take you by the hand and lead you to the water. I will go through that. But for now, do you agree with this definition?
You know, saying yes here is a complete double-edged sword, but I'll fucking bite. Yes, I agree with your definition. Now,
No,
how does
it's
your
not a
skill
double-edged sword,
contribute?
my friend, unless you're against logic. That's all. Now, the definition of artist that I'm using is an artist is a person or creative agent who intentionally uses skill and imagination to create, arrange, or perform art. Do you agree with this definition?
I agree with that definition.
Okay. So now let's break it down very, very quickly because let's talk about what the human has. I have the intention. If I'm assuming that I'm going to do art, you can grant me that I already have intentional creation, right?
Intentional, yes. Creation,
Yes,
if you're
I'm
using
sitting
something
down
to
that
change up
I'm
effects,
intentionally creating something. We've satisfied that.
you would not be
Now,
creating it, is the issue.
here we go. Here we go. Listen, I got you. Intentionally creation. Now I'm going to you. I can add in arrangement of perceptual form. Do you need that? Because like arrangement of perceptual form just means that could be music, that could be art, that could be writing. It's just an arrangement of perceptual form. So as long as I arrange it so that you can perceive it, do you agree with that?
You arrange it so that you
Yeah,
make it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tangible, yes.
You're getting hung up. You arrange it so that it can be perceived. Correct? We're
Again,
good there.
if you are the one
Okay,
arranging it, if
okay. You're
you are
getting
the
hung up.
one making it
Yes,
tangible,
I understand. I'll walk you through that in a second. I got you. But for right now, again, it's just the arrangement of perceptual form. If I can intentionally create an arrangement of perceptual form, you agree with me so far, right?
sure.
Okay. Now it only has to be an expression of skill and imagination. Let's only deal with skill and imagination here because I think you're going to give me expression with intentional creation. I feel like I can smuggle in expression there. So let's say through skill and imagination. We recognize that skill and imagination comes from the person who had the initial idea to intentionally create, right?
No. Imagination, yes. Skill, no.
Okay, skill. Okay, so let's define skill for you. What's a skill for you?
A skill is anything that you know, hands on are able to do through practice.
Okay, so if I am able to intentionally arrange something in a perceptual form so that you can perceive it, would that be a skill?
Sure.
Fantastic. Is typing a skill?
Yes.
Is writing a skill?
Writing is a skill.
So if I write something with intentional creation to arrange perceptual form through my skill and imagination, that would qualify, wouldn't it?
The skill to make a prompt is what you're describing, not the skill to create art.
No, no, it's the skill to make a prompt. It's the skill to know how to make the prompt. It's the skill to actually be able to coherently speak English. It's the skill to type. It's the skill to know how to use the software. It's a skill to know where to place these things. There are 50 to 100 individual skills that go into any creation of any form of art, and AI is no different. I can walk you through all the different prompts and the shadings and the cells and the hue colors about prompting if you like, but you have to concede that being able to navigate that and do it in an arrangement of perceptual form is a skill. Do you agree?
Certain circumstances, I do.
In what circumstances would that not be the case?
Well, first of all, it would not be the case because it's Chat GPT. It's brain dead easy.
Okay,
You say
but
generated
see,
circle,
but
it'll
no,
generate
no,
that
see,
circle.
you're muddying the waters. No one cares about the tool. Did I use skill and imagination to arrange things in a perceptual form, and did I do it intentionally? Yes.
No, you didn't
No, what I
arrange it
did, I
though.
didn't talk about. I
That's
didn't
the
talk
part
about the
where
means by which I did it. I didn't talk about the tool that was used. I said I used my skill and imagination to arrange things in a perceptible form intentionally. Now, the only thing I have to give you now is that it produces aesthetic, emotional, symbolic, or intellectual I'm sorry, aesthetic, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning. I don't think you'll argue with me that any piece of anything that is created with a professional form has an aesthetic. I don't think you can argue that point. I
I
don't
can't.
think even if you want to say you don't like it, I don't think you can argue that it produced an emotion. And even
Yeah,
if you
that's
could,
subjective.
yeah, emotions would be subjective, but it's
To
right there. It says it evoked emotion. It did. The emotion you feel is subjective. The fact that you felt an emotion is objective, and you cannot dispute that no matter what it is I produce to you, it doesn't have a level of symbolic meaning. If
Can't
you can
dispute that
agree
part. No.
to all of these terms, then you have to concede that art qualifies under art. AI art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptual form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing the aesthetic, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning. I have met all four of these criteria, and I didn't even have to mention in what tool I used it in. All I need was intention. All I needed was the skill and imagination, and I needed you to see that it was in a perceptible form. I have all of these things.
Okay, now, much like you did, allow me to walk you through my thought train here a little bit.
No, no, and that's fine. I need you to either agree or dispute it. Where's the flaw in my logic? Have I met the criteria by which we agreed on? Yes or no?
No, no, you have not.
You're being disingenuous at this point. Let's walk through it one more time. Did I
Hold on,
intentionally
hold on.
create?
I understand
No,
everything you've said.
no,
I under
no, no. You hold on because you
You
lied
said
to me.
agree or dispute. All right, I'm disputing. Are you going back on your word, or am I allowed to do that?
You're sure, sure. Go
All right.
ahead. Tell me,
Now,
tell me where you.
even,
I would much
even
rather you tell me where you think the flaw in my logic is than for you to give me some nonsensical thing. Point out a flaw in my logic because what's happening is that you're agreeing with my premises, but you're failing to agree with my conclusion. That's illogical.
I am failing
I
to
would,
agree with
I
your
would much rather
conclusion
you point
because
out the
you are
flaw in
not
my
touching
logic
all
than you
bases.
introduce to me a whole new logic.
See, there's no new logic. All right, logic is objective. That's what makes it logical.
Sure.
All right, now,
Explain to me how the definition of art that we agreed to, how AI does not meet every criteria.
because you're missing some points here. You always come back to what I think, what I say, which means you believe that art is a personal learned skill. which means you are very aware that art, being an artist, comes from creating, comes from making it tangible. You are not creating anything by asking your buddy Tom to build you a wall. You have the idea.
That's not
The idea.
true. That's not true. I stop you there. If I asked my buddy Tom to build a wall, would the wall have been built if I hadn't said anything to Tom? No. He needed my intentional creation and my imagination. The skill that I used to get the wall built was hiring the guy who knew how to do it.
Now,
Yes,
you used your imagination. It's his creation. That's where it falls
it
apart.
doesn't matter. It's but Ted wouldn't move to build the wall without me telling him what to do. What bricks should you use? Should you use bricks at all? Should it be wooden? Do I want it painted? Where do I want it? How tall do I want it? How thick do I want it? He's going to do nothing until I prompt him to do it.
But
This
the
will be the
idea
case for
cannot be
anything
owned.
you do, whether you're hiring somebody to do it or whether you're doing it yourself. Nothing will happen until you sit down and work with the medium by which you choose to express yourself. The medium will do nothing without you. You are critical.
See, the medium will go out and do the exact same thing somewhere else, and any reasonable person would say, oh, yeah, Tim did a great job building this wall for me because Tim used his creation, his tools, everything in his power to bring this to life. Tim is an artist in
You
his
know,
field.
this,
Tim did.
sir, let me. You're not arguing logic with me. You're saying, well, most people would use common sense and say this. I need you to object to my definition. I need you to reject one of the definitions. I need you to show me how AI art somehow fails to meet one of these standards. Anything else is just you blowing smoke up my ass.
See, I have objected, though, many times. An idea cannot be
Well,
owned, an idea has never been
walk
able.
me through it. Walk me through it then. Would you like me to explain it? I can explain it again, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong.
I see
Or
that's
do you just want
exactly
to tell
what
me
I'm
where I'm
doing,
wrong?
and you're just kind of
No, no,
not
you're
letting
not.
me to
You're
that.
saying you were wrong because most people would say if Tim built the thing, he would say you did a great job, Tim, but they wouldn't thank Derek for it.
See,
I don't give a shit what other people are doing. I have
now,
met the definition. Like,
if the
look,
only thing you've
here's
pulled
another
from
example for you. Here's another example for you. If I freeze an ice cube, it becomes ice. No one's going to argue, well, there was no intention, but it is the thing that it is. Well, you haven't considered where the tray may have come from. I don't care. It falls under the definition. Ice is a frozen piece of water. It meets the definition, period. AI art also meets the definition that we laid out. And what you're saying is, well, that's just not what some people would mean by that. And I don't care. I need you to reject one of the premises in the definition that we agreed to or concede that you can't.
which is something that I have been doing. Because if
No,
the only thing
you,
you're
you know
getting
what?
out of
No more
it is
meta.
rid of
Just
the
go for it.
training
Go
stuff.
for it. Give it to
All
me.
right, great, great.
Where do
I
you
will
object?
go for it. Ideas, they can't be owned. They really just can't be. You ask someone to build something, they build it, they brought it to life, they are
Hey,
the creators.
excuse
Not
me.
yours.
Where in my definition did I say I owned it? You're straw manning my position.
No, see, I'm not though. You say you're the artist. Being the artist implies that you created this, however, the
No,
AI did.
no, no, no. You have implied that. All I said is that I had an intentional creation. It's a perceptible form, and I use skill and imagination. That qualifies as art. I didn't say I own it. I didn't say I could sell it. I didn't say that Tim didn't help. None of these things are in the definition you're objecting to. You're adding things and saying, aha, and it's not in there.
Well, it kind of is though. So back to the
No, no, it's not. It's not. Would you like me to read it to you again? Because you're adding words to my shit to tell me that I'm wrong, and the only thing that's wrong with the thing is the shit you're adding.
Okay, see, when it comes to art, the context of skill being that you put in the work to bring it to life. However, if the AI made
I
it,
sure did.
if Tim made it, you did not put in the work to bring it to life. The AI did. Tim did. You are not the
You
artist
are
in this context.
you are once again going off on a tangent of what fucking Tim is doing. Object to one of the criteria in my argument. I used intentional creation to arrange things in a perceptual form using skill and imagination. And in this example that you keep trying to go back to that's not working, the skill that I used was finding a medium by which that could perform the task better than me. So I used my imagination and skill, and then I hired Tim, and then Tim brought my creation to life. And the only person that can say that the art is actual when it is complete is me, because it was my original idea. Do I own the copyright for it? I probably can't sell the wall. I probably can't. But what I've done is I've satisfied the criteria of intentional creation. It's a perceptible form because you see it, it's a wall. It had the imagination because it was my idea, and skill was involved. You're trying to say, well, if it's an extra person, do you know that there are artists that get together and like 10 or 12 of them work on the same picture together, and no one person says this is my art piece, they worked on it collaboratively? It can be a collaborative piece of art with multiple different people using skill, as long as the intentional creation is an arrangement of a perceptible fucking form using imagination. So with that in mind, I need you to tell me in which part of this AI art does not qualify.
See, the thing about that is this whole time, Tim has very clearly been a very obvious metaphor for
I don't care. Tim is one of the skills. Tim is one of the skills.
you.
Tim's a collaborative artist in this venture. We are now co-artists, if that's what you want to do. Sure, you're looking to give Tim some credit. We're co-authors now. But we're not talking about ownership. I'm talking about the end result. Intentional creation, perceptible form, skill, and imagination. I have met these three criteria.
See, imagination, that's another thing, all right?
Where did the
Imagination
thought
isn't
come
a
from?
skill.
Where did the thought come
Imagination
from,
is
Archangel?
human nature, all right?
Where did the thought come from? It came from my imagination, didn't it? In order to have an intentional creation, it had to come from somebody's mind, didn't it? It came from mine. That's the imagination, Archangel.
But
I've got
having an
imagination. I've
imagination,
got
that's not
imagination
something
covered.
to be proud of in this context. That's
I'm
called
not. I'm not.
having.
I don't give a shit if you're proud of it. The ice isn't proud that it's a frozen piece of water. It is what it is. It's an intentional creation, arranged in a perceptual form, using skill and imagination. You're now smuggling in, but you can't be proud of it. I don't give a shit if you don't come to my high school graduation, Dad. It's still the thing that it is.
Okay, the thing about that, though, is you're not even trying to hear me here, because creation, by definition, the act of creating, this is not your creation. You did not act in any part outside of having the idea, which cannot be owned.
So outside of
Everyone
having
owns
the
the
idea
everything
and
else.
outside of commissioning the other person, I didn't do anything. So what would happen if I didn't have the conscious idea? Nothing would happen.
Well, then again,
Nothing
I
would
feel
happen.
like it's very
Nothing would
unfair.
get built.
I feel like it's very
No,
unfair to say that this is completely my creation and Tim could never
see,
have
you're
done it.
you're talking about ownership again, and I don't care. I don't care about the ownership. I'm saying that AI art is an intentional creation arranged in a perceptible form using skill and imagination. Whose skill? What imagination? None of your fucking business. It meets all three of the criteria. A small piece of frozen water is ice. It doesn't have to meet any other criteria. It doesn't need to be in a certain shape. It didn't have to do it at a certain fucking time. If it meets these criteria, it's a piece of ice. My art meets these criteria, it is art. That's what I need you to refute. Not the skill part, because you can argue about what the skill is. It doesn't matter. I could draw a pinata with crayons and then do it with fucking digital art, and the pinata will look better. But both of them use skill and imagination, so it doesn't matter how much skill or how much imagination. Only that those things exist.
But what does matter is whose skill, and you are not
No, it
acting
does
in the
not.
creation.
Where in my definition does it say whose skill?
Oh, great. Well, by
Where
that
where
logic,
in the
shit, I
definition?
painted the Mona Lisa. Fuck Da Vinci's skill. That was all me. I've thought of a woman before.
Yeah, but you'd be lying. I mean, you could paint the Mona Lisa, it wouldn't be the Mona Lisa, it probably wouldn't be good, but I would tell you that it was art. Yes.
Okay, and you would tell me that
You're
Da
trying to
Vinci
smuggle
is
in
the artist here
who's
because Da Vinci had the idea and Da Vinci brought it to life. Da Vinci used
you think Da
his
Vinci is the
skill
first person.
to
What did Da Vinci paint?
a lot of
Tell me
shit.
what name one. Name one.
The Mona Lisa.
Okay, you think there's never been a painting of a woman before, ever? You think that there's never Mona Lisa was the very first picture of a woman? It's like, oh, you know, the Mona. I never thought that we could paint the female species. He saw somebody else did it, and then he painted his girlfriend. Big fucking deal. Is it a
That's
nice picture?
exactly my
Sure.
point
I
here.
I don't assign any value to it, but I don't say it's not art. Because you know
That's ex-
why? It meets the criteria. He had intentional creation. He arranged it in a perceptual form. He used skill and imagination.
But the
He meets
biggest
the
thing that
criteria.
makes him the artist is that he created it. You did not create the AI art. The AI did. Tim built the
Sir,
wall. Kev
sir,
built the helmet.
I need you to, in my definition, say where it has to be an individual person. It doesn't.
See,
It's not there.
collaboration does
This is the second time. No, this is the third time you have now taken my definition, smuggled something in there, and said, see, this is why it doesn't work. Mine doesn't say the expression through my own personal skill with no outside intervention from anybody else. That's your definition, and that's stupid. By the definition that you agreed to, AI art is covered across the board. You just don't want to accept it, and you want to try to add shit into my definition that you already agreed to.
The
Why are you
definition
doing
that
that?
I agreed to is art being a creation. The fact
No,
or state of it
let me read
having
it to
had
you. I'm
been
going to read it
created.
to you again. The definition is the art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptual form, experience, or expression through skill and imagination, producing aesthetic, emotional, intellectual, or symbolic meaning. Nowhere in the definition that it says it has to be only Vincent van Gogh. Nowhere does it says that I can't hire a team of people to come in here and paint this for me and it wouldn't be my intentional creation. You're adding that to the definition. You've already agreed to my definition. I've walked you through the criteria each single time and you said, yes, all of these things fit. But when we get to the conclusion, you try to smuggle some shit into my definition again.
Okay,
Tell
all
me
right,
where
sure.
my
I will
definition is
tell
wrong.
you exactly. So we agree. Art being created is the intentional creation. The artist is the one who intentionally creates. Yes, that's your definition?
Intentionally creates or arrange a perceptible form.
Okay,
So
intentionally
I don't
creates
have
or
to create it.
arrange. All
I
right,
can
you did not
arrange it.
create
That
or arrange, though. The AI did.
how
That's
did
what
I
made
not?
you not an
How did
artist.
I not? How did I not?
You had the idea, an idea that
I
cannot
had
be
the
owned.
idea.
You had
Oh my God, I had the idea. That's almost like the imagination of an intentional creation. I had a thought. And then I went to somebody and said, I want to make this happen. Do you hear yourself?
I do, and the person who made it happen, that's the artist. You don't own the idea.
You're talking about ownership again, and ownership does not appear in my definition. Do you see how every time I come back to this, I say AI art meets all of the things that are required? I walk you through them. And then when I say show me how it doesn't, you try to add in some new shit. Explain to me. Explain to me. All I want to hear from you is how AI art is not an intentional creation or an arrangement of perceptual form, how I didn't use skill and imagination.
Okay, see, the artist is the person who made the art, yes?
I'm not asking about the artist. I'm asking about art. Is it an intentional creation? Yes or no?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Do you perceive my arrangement? Is it in a perceptual form for you?
Your arrangement, it's in a
Okay. Good.
perceptual
Okay.
form because of
No.
something
No.
else.
Is it in a perceptual form? Do you perceive it?
I perceive it because of something that isn't
Okay.
even mine.
Yes or no? Do you perceive it? Yes or no?
I perceive it.
Okay. Was skill and imagination present in its intentional creation? Yes or no?
Your imagination, that's quite irrelevant
I
in
didn't
someone
ask
else's story.
whose. I didn't ask whose. I said, was skill and imagination required for the intentional creation? Yes or no?
Not your skill, though. That's the issue.
I didn't ask whose skill, did I?
But it
I
kind of
said,
matters a lot.
is your skill? You're again smuggling in fucking ownership. I don't care. Was skill and imagination used? Yes or no?
To
You
create
can
the
unmute.
art, yes.
Yes. Okay. So I've satisfied intentional creation, the arrangement of perceptual form through skill and imagination, without adding any of your mumbo jumbo who owns it bullshit into the definition. AI art meets these criteria, doesn't it?
You have satisfied intention. You have neither satisfied creation nor skill.
How did I not intentionally create it? Was there no so there was no intention to my imagination when I put it in a perceptual form for you?
Well, that's the thing.
How
You're just
how
not hearing me now because my point
No,
there,
no,
I
no, no,
said,
because that's a bullshit statement. I intentionally arranged it in a perceptual form. The proof that I did is that you perceived it, didn't you?
that doesn't count as proof. You were not the one who
It, it, it,
contributed to the
it,
proof
it, it,
making. You contributed to the.
you're talking about contributions, and I'm not asking whose skill or whose imagination. There was intentional creation. A conscious being said, "I want to make a thing that you can perceive." I then created the thing that you could perceive with skill and imagination. Whether I outsourced that skill and imagination, or whether I collaborated with other skills and other imaginations, or whether I used chalk, doesn't fucking matter. I arranged it, you perceived it, I used skill and imagination. It's art, isn't it?
Oh, you said outsource. Why are you talking about ownership?
I'm not talking. This is for your dumb perspective.
Right.
Skill. I said skill and imagination. One of the skills is outsourcing. One of the skills is using the tools at my discretion. That's one of the skills. I use my imagination to say which one of these tools would be the best tool. I've satisfied all three of your criteria, and you had to go do. You see that you won't just agree to it. I baby stepped you to the water. I've dunked your head in the water, and you won't fucking drink. AI
Now, the
art
skill of
is
the actual
intentional
creation
creation
itself, where did
of
that come from? Because it
perceptual
wasn't me,
form.
so where did it come from?
It it came through intentional creation and of an arrangement of perceptual form through skill and imagination. You are once again, for the fifth
Intentionally,
time,
yes, you
smuggling
created
in.
nothing.
You're smuggling in ownership. Well, where did it come from? Who did it? It came from intentional creation and skill and imagination. That's where it came from. Like a director on a movie set. He doesn't work the camera. He doesn't do the acting. He's not the gaffer. He's not in the editing room. But he manages all the pieces. He puts everything together with intention in a perceivable form using his skill and imagination. And he's an artist, even though he's never picked up the pencil to write, even though he's never been behind the camera to actually direct. He directs the people who know how to do it. That's a skill, isn't it?
Intention, yes. Creation, no. Very simple.
So the director didn't do anything. So the director didn't create a movie.
The
The
director
director didn't direct
directed.
all the pieces.
The director does not make the movie. The director directed.
Who makes the movie then? Who makes the movie then?
Oh, we're talking about ownership again. Great. So my points have been
No,
valid this whole
no,
time.
no. I don't understand why you don't understand this. Even if I wrote it off to Steven Spielberg and I didn't own it, it would still be the intentional creation. In fact, I'm going to ask you these questions and you're going to say yes or no, and then we're going to end this because I'm not going to continue to go around in circles with you. I'm going to first, and I'm going to preface this with you. You strike me as a logical person. We started this with logic. You understand that if I give you premises that are sound and valid, the conclusion logically follows, right?
Yes, so.
Okay, so you recognize that if you agree with the premises and then not the conclusion, you would be illogical, right?
No, logic is a linear train of thinking. You can have a different conclusion.
But if it's not logic, it's illogic. That's the law of identity. It can't be logic and illogic because that would go against logic, wouldn't it?
Of
So
course,
if it's
but
not
two people
logic,
can come
it's
to a different
illogical.
conclusion.
I'll even go a step further. If it's not illogical, it can be neutral or it can be illogical. But either way, it's not logical, is it?
Not logical, no.
Okay, fantastic. So, again, our definition of art is the intentional creation or arrangement of perceptual form, experience, or expression through skill, imagination, producing aesthetics, emotion, intellectual, or symbolic meaning. For this to get off the ground, does there have to be intentional creation? Yes or no? Premise one. Is there
Before
intentional
I answer
creation
this, I
involved?
need to understand you do know what intention and creation is, do you not?
I set out to make a thing. I intend to create. I want to make a thing. I have an idea for a thing that I would like to be in existence. Is
You
intentional
intend
creation.
to, but you are unable to, ergo you did not.
No, no, stop. Stop. I will not let you do that. Premise one. Does does AI art have intentional creation? Yes or no? Do
AI
you
art,
agree?
intentional, yes. Creation, not by
Okay,
you.
okay, okay, okay. So how can I intend to create, but then if I don't have the intention to create, that the art still happens? The
Because
art
you
can't happen
simply
unless I
did not
intended
create.
it to, right?
Because you did not pick up the pen, because you did not lay the
I,
brick.
you know,
Because
I
you
didn't pick up the pen. I used the tool. Don't try to get ahead of my argument, sir. Don't try to get ahead of it. There is intentional creation. In fact, it would be pretty fucking disingenuous of you to, even if I was saying I was using Sora 2 and I just wanted to go in and I turn on the app and I sit down and I start typing. Even if it's slop, it was intentionally created because it wouldn't have existed if I hadn't done that. Do you agree with that?
I agree that the artist intended and created. You can intend,
Okay,
you did not
okay. So,
create.
premise one, AI art has intentional creation. Do you agree with this?
Listen, man, I've tried to be pretty
Do
direct
you
here
do
as
you
no,
do
no,
you
just
or
just
not?
hear me out. Just 30 seconds.
No, I'm no. We're past the hear me out phase. I'm gonna walk you through this one
No,
more
all
time.
right, listen, seriously. My phone is on
No, no.
4%. I'm saying
Yeah,
my
okay,
dues.
well, you
I've
better
tried to
hurry
be
up because it
direct
would be
and I
really quick if you
appreciate
just did
your
yes or no.
time.
You can just knock out these yes or nos real quick with your 4%. You're stalling for time. Does AI art have intentional creation behind it? Yes or no?
I'm not
This is my
stalling
first
for
premise.
time. I'm bidding my dues. I appreciate your time. This whole conversation has been quite illogical, and I do hope you change your train of thinking. Good day,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. I would run too. I would run too. Run. I
Sure.
accept your surrender. I'm not even going to drop you. I'll let you leave because you saw what was coming and you had to run. Suddenly you're at 4%. You don't have a charger. Go ahead. See you
Well,
later.
my charger is hooked up to my microphone because I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
recording this because it's
Excuses,
funny.
excuses. See, and all it, we could have been done with all the premises right now, but you don't want to do
Hey,
that
hey,
because you
I'll,
know
I'll
where it's
tag you
going.
in the video. You don't have to believe me, but if
I'm
you
not
don't,
watching your video. You think I'm
then
taking
don't.
advice from you?
Then don't. You don't have to take advice from me. You don't have to do
I'm not.
anything.
I'm
Just like
not.
you're not
But you're going
creating
to
this
sit up
fucking art.
here. You're going to sit up here, and I'm not going to drop you because you're going to do it yourself, Mister 4%, because you realize that I have you in a corner, and rather than taking this time now, you could just be giving me the yes no answers. We could have been done with this motherfucker twice,
We could
twice.
have,
But
but this isn't
but
as
but
much of
you
a
but
corner.
you chose not to because you know where it's going and you know you're caught. That's what happened. So go ahead and drop down. I would run too from inescapable fucking logic from a position I can't defend. Please have
Right.
a nice day, sir.
All right, you
I'm
too.
I
You
Here
have
you are,
not been
space and
making much
opportunity to show me
defense
where my
yourself.
definition is wrong, and you haven't done it. You can't do it. That's
Uh,
why you're running.
yeah, good
That's
day.
why you're running.
Of course it is. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm running. Goodbye.
I know it is, and deflect all you want because if I could defeat your argument, I would have stuck the fuck around. Like I would have dismantled you for the fun of it. But it looks like you didn't know how to do that. That's weird. That's funny. That's odd. Don't you find that suspicious? The fuck? I like Raven, I don't understand, Queen. I don't understand. We agree on the definition. He agrees that it's a good definition, And then when you hold him to it, he was like, well, it didn't say whose skill. My definition doesn't say whose skill. It's purposely not in there. It's purposely not in there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. My definition doesn't say human. I meticulously crafted this definition from all the other definitions to avoid all the unnecessary bullshit that these people would try. And what did he do? Copyright. Who owns it? Tim built the fence, not you. You just had the idea. At every point he agreed, except when it came to the conclusion. I don't understand. I don't understand. But you know what? I do enjoy the format. I do like being able to go with one person for a prolonged period of time. It would have been nice to have some people up here with me, but also I think it would have messed with the flow, and everybody's not going to be able to get an equal say, and then somebody would get left out, and then I'd feel bad. So I think for our first official outing with our cute little logo, I think we did okay. I didn't ask for likes not once, and I got 13.8K of them. I think I got a couple of little coins in there. Somebody dropped me something. I tried to set the goal at 17 donuts, but I don't know how to do those things, so I don't know if it's set or not. But that would have been a fun Easter egg. But thank you, Miss Raven, and everybody who came in. I now know where they are, so that I can go grab these and upload them fairly quickly. So if I do more of these in the future, they'll all be uploaded. And if you want a link, just get at me. I'll shoot you a link. But thanks for coming, Will. Maybe somebody else will go live and I can be somebody's sidekick, because hosting is exhausting.